Round 2. Fight! Hello! And here we are again, where I am on mute. Okay, so we're gonna get to Chris and Nerdcube in a second. First, I just kind of wanted to thank everyone for their support and for really making Fire 2 tournaments a legitimate top tier tournament. I have stepped away from the mic. I'm going to be doing background work for now. And I'm going to let some of our players cast the games. One update that I have for you this season is we actually do now have as always, we have Twitch subscriptions and stuff like that, but we also have a PayPal donate link at the bottom. People were asking for some way to do that, so I put that there. If you want to donate, great. If you don't, no big deal. We use it to license music. We use it to buy equipment. I now have an SSD that is specifically just for Fire 2 tournaments and has nothing but that on it. So, and we use it for prizes as well. We have to ship prizes out and stuff like that. So, with that, thank you for everything. Thank you to our players. We have 24 amazing players this season, and I can't wait to get to them all. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go to our broadcast team. Thank you. Have a great day.
Hi, everyone. This is ChristopherHo, and I'm here with Eric, also known as Nerdcube. Are we good, production? Everything's good to go? Awesome stuff. Cool, guys. So we've got an incredible lineup here today in Group A. We've got Zoras, Claybo, Istari, and either CeePhi or CeePhi. Bizzle wasn't 100% clear with us, so maybe we'll hear from him at some point to clarify that. But it's just an absolutely stacked Group A, headlining an absolutely stacked tournament. Nerdcube, did you want to say anything to get us started here?
Yeah, this is a really cool Group A to get everything started off. Zoras coming back for his revenge tour after a disappointing showing in the last Fire 2 Open, but now he's headlining, as the top seed of the first group. So, and we've got a couple newcomers. I think the rest of this group is actually newcomers who didn't play last time, but everyone should recognize Claybo from the ladder. Been near the top of arena rankings consistently, but Istari and CeePhi pretty new to the pretty new names to a lot of the competitive Terra Mystica players. So yeah, it's really exciting though. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this group and seeing who's going to break through to the next round for the first time.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks for that. So, as you guys can see here, and this is not really a surprise to anyone that's followed Terra Mystica for any amount of time. Even just the past few months, if you're new to Terra Mystica, you've probably heard of Zoras. He's been a fixture in the, I was going to say in the industry. He's been a fixture in the Terra Mystica community for, I guess, many years now. He puts out some incredible videos for the community, the ultimate guides, and he's written some posts that are kind of like the cornerstone of how people think about Terra Mystica strategy and economy and all of that kind of stuff. So being able to cast this game is just it's a privilege for Eric and I, just because Zoras has just been kind of leading the community for so long, and it's going to be really exciting to see what these guys can bring to the table against them. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, so the big thing to note here from this match history, you'll notice Istari has not played anyone, and that's because Istari's only played about, I think, like 5 or 6 4-player games of Terra Mystica in his whole time on BGA. He's primarily been a 2-player specialist. So, on the one hand, we don't know how he's going to fare against these other opponents, but on the other hand, we don't know like he's got a lot of experience playing Terra Mystica, and he's going to be like the biggest unknown to all these other competitors. Zoras and Claybo have played each other 11 times. Claybo's probably seen Zoras' stream and knows his playstyle, what to expect from him, but Istari is going to be coming in as the big wild card with no games against anyone else.
Yeah, and I mean, continuing that theme with this wonderful graphic here, we just don't know anything about Istari, really. I mean, I maybe Bowser, I see Bowser Hugs in the chat there, maybe he knows him, because they're both two-player specialists. But I don't think any of the other competitors here will really know anything about Istari at all. Zoras, I thought it was funny to see that Giants is up here as one of his strongest factions in, I guess it's just the past 50 games, because Zoras is like a noted Giants hater. Hates on Giants, hates them in the game, and yet just absolutely dominates when he puts them in. So it's pretty cool to see that. Also important to note, and this is something that Eric and I will talk about probably in the bidding, is that these past 50 games for most of these players are probably mostly in Arena, which means that they're with the landscapes as well. So it's interesting to see Dwarfs pop up there. That Dwarfs landscape is really powerful, and it really changes how that faction is played. As well as, I guess I was gonna say the Giants landscape as well. I know that's very powerful. And nerdcube, you've been absolutely crushing with the Giants, so be interested to hear your thought on that.
Yeah, I think there's been a few of us who've been experimenting with the Giants this season with landscapes on, and so I can imagine that's why Zoras has maybe begrudgingly like given them a shot this season. So he's mentioned many times that he likes playing them more than playing against them. So it'll be interesting to see if he chooses to nominate them, like knowing that there's a chance that he has to play against them.
Yeah, and something else I'll note here is that, I mean, I know we don't have any data on Istari at all, but you see all the black and brown factions. I mean, these black and brown factions, I have to imagine, um, they're really strong factions for some of these players here. But I mean, Zoras has been playing for a long time, and the black and brown factions are extremely common in some of the most common matchups. So that might be something that he's licking his chops at, to see some of these like more normal faction setups, because he's going to know a lot of the lines and a lot of what's important versus what's not and what to prioritize. Although, you know what, Claybo has played probably 4 or 5 years with the Terra Mystica in the past 4 or 5 months, so maybe that's neutralized a little bit.
I think that'll be something interesting to see if Istari, often a reasonable approach for like a player who's coming in as like a little bit of an underdog, maybe not the rest of the field doesn't know them as well, is to like throw a little bit of chaos into the mix. It's not very often that someone will pick witches into engineers, right? If engineers have already been picked. So maybe that's how he gets an advantage, is by like throwing a little bit of chaos, where Zoras and Claybo and CeePhi like don't have the experience playing sandwiched engineers, and so it just evens the playing field a little bit more. So that that lack of knowledge about Istari's game, in his underdog status, he might have a couple interesting lines there.
Makes a lot of sense. It looks like production is starting to get this game going for us here, bringing up the overlay. So we will jump into the game, and it looks like Zoras is going to be first to pick and put in a faction.
Cool.
So, I mean, Eric, I'm going to defer. I'm going to let you walk through before the factions actually get picked, because color opposition is extremely important to understand the power of the factions. But let's just look at this track first. Let's look at this track, and maybe you could share some of what you're thinking when you get into a game like this.
Yeah, so my eyes immediately jumped to. I didn't even look at the track first. I'm looking at these bonus tiles and seeing that in any 4-player game of Terra Mystica, right, there's going to be 3 bonus tiles left out of the game. In this case, it's the Sanctuary Stronghold scoring, the shipping scoring, and the dwelling scoring. So in terms of bonus tiles, no one is going to be getting lots of points from bonus tiles. The trading post bonus tile is probably gets the least amount of points. Although there is a trading post round 3, but yeah, so like this just seems like an incredibly low scoring game from that perspective. Even before we shift to the track, if we shift to the track, we can see Sanctuary and Stronghold early. That's like relatively okay, but oftentimes you don't want to be building your Sanctuary or Stronghold round 1. You want to be building a temple to get a favor tile especially if the game is lower scoring, like we pointed out with few scoring bonus tiles in the game. So yeah, so the early track, seems like people are going to be wanting to build temples, but that late track, that's the redeeming quality of this game's scoring value. Round 3 trading post into round 4 spades into round 5 trading post into round 6 dwellings. That can pretty much read like trading posts trading posts dwellings, which is exactly kind of the flow you want to have to your economy later on in the game. And so that's the redeeming quality of this track, that it might actually be a high scoring game after all.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, when you first look here, so I like what Eric said, and I would, advise some of the viewers that, maybe you're new to Terra Mystica, or maybe you've been playing for a long time. But one of the things that he said that I really liked, and it's actually the way that I think about it as well too, is when you take a look at those bonus cards, just look for the 3 that aren't there. And he immediately picked out that, we're missing 3 very strong, the 3 strongest of the 4 scoring bonus tiles. And so you're missing a lot of points from the game right off the bat. One of the other things, and you'll hear Eric say, there's these high scoring games versus these low scoring games, and it does affect kind of the way that you think about factions, because there are some factions with inherent scoring versus some factions that don't have inherent scoring. And when we look at the track, what you really want to see, and Eric pointed out the cadence of the track being trading post digs, trading post dwellings, like that's just a wonderful cadence of the track. But what you're also looking for is that the track events don't repeat, because when the track events don't repeat, you also get higher scoring games. And we've got Stronghold Sanctuary right at the beginning, and we have 2 trading post rounds, which means that you can't optimize in the same way that you otherwise would be able to. The trading post being separated by that dig event, though, is going to make it such that, and Eric pointed this out, it could potentially be an extremely high scoring game. One of the other things that I like about the track in terms of scoring potential is that the economic benefits of the track are spread out in the way that you would want them to be. You need workers earlier in the game, coins later in the game. Generally, for really, really high scoring games, like the ones that get like into the high hundreds, like 160, 170 above, you usually want to see some earlier spades. But there's definitely potential to this game to go bananas, and we have some strong players in here that could potentially make it happen. So
Yeah, we're seeing
Eric,
the first couple picks here being Darklings and Swarmlings, which I think are great picks for this track. Darklings especially, like we pointed out, the bonus tiles don't have a lot of scoring. Darklings do have inherent scoring, with each of their priests being worth 2 points. So that's great for them. The round 4 spades, of course, they can hopefully build a sanctuary in round 1 or 2, stockpile a ton of priests for that round 4 spade event. This seems like a dream Darklings game. Everyone else will be struggling to score points from the bonus tiles. Darklings, the track just like beautifully lays out the exact plan they'd like to have for building their structures. Swarmlings are a little interesting. Swarmlings tend to like having scoring bonus tiles in the game. Because they build so many of their structures early, particularly the Sanctuary Stronghold bonus tile that gives them points for their Sanctuary and their Stronghold. They'd love to. They build their Stronghold turn 1 almost every game. They hopefully build their Sanctuary round 1 or 2. So they love that tile being in the game. That's not here, which isn't ideal for them. But the trading post tile being in the game is huge, right? Like that, they love to take that one. So yeah, this track looks okay for Swarmlings. Swarmlings also love to take advantage of round 4 spades.
Yep.
The Logus, who's playing in this tournament later, always loves to talk about Swarmlings in a round 4 spades, just saying that there's no more efficient conversion for Swarmlings than 1 worker for 2 points. Swarmlings' whole thing is they've got a ton of resources. How can they turn that into points? And that's like the most efficient way they're going to have. So yeah, this makes that a pretty reasonable Swarmlings game.
Oh, this is a boomer bust Swarmlings game, that is for sure, because as Eric pointed out, like Swarmlings needs these pass tiles to score points, and it is really challenging for them without them. If Swarmlings gets into a position where they're not completing at least 1, but potentially 2 of their towns round 4, if they can get into that, finishing 2 towns round 4 and getting those 6 extra workers, that is just massive for them. But if they miss that somehow, they miss that in the cadence of the game, it is going to be, I think, extremely challenging for them to compete here. Like I'd be really, really concerned about having an extremely solid game plan going into a Swarmlings pick here. And it looks like the last two were rounded out here, Fakirs and Dwarves. What do you think about the color opposition right off the bat?
Well, this is a pretty standard color matchup. Like I think this is pretty expected. When blue's in the game, yellow loves that. They have a great time in the west. Upgrading their structures there, getting leech, having neighbors to form early towns. So I think like yellow was a great pick for this game, and Fakirs makes a lot of sense. Because as we talked about it, with it being a lower scoring game on the bonus tiles, Fakirs are able to make up some of that with their innate scoring ability. And on top of that, Fakirs, as you point out, we're playing with landscapes on this season. Fakir's landscape is just possibly an order of magnitude the strongest landscape in the game. The Fakir's landscape gives 2 coins every time they do a carpet flight using a priest to skip a space. They already want to be doing that, I don't know, 8 to 10 times a game if they can. And so if they're doing, if they put their landscape down and then carpet flight 8 times for 2 coins a piece, that's just 16 coins they got. That's approximately the value of taking the Fire 1 favor tile round 1. So their landscape being the strongest in the game just possibly propels them to being a stronger faction than Nomads anyways. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how, I think Fakirs are a perfect example of how like practice and preparation with landscapes on is going to be really important, because their game changes so incredibly much. If you've never played them with landscapes on, you just play them in a totally different way, and they have such a different power level.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's so important to understand what that landscape does for them. And I love, essentially, the way that you could think about it, for people that aren't familiar with landscapes, or for viewers that maybe haven't played with the landscape so far. It's just, imagine Fakirs get to start with Fire 1. Just if you imagine it that way, that's essentially what they're going to get here. I want to just draw your attention to the bidding real quick, because I would love to share with the viewers kind of our thoughts on what a fair auction is here, and what some of the potential starting spots could be and things like that. Because it looks like the bidding is fast and furious on Darklings here, which I think could be expected. It looks like no one's bid for anything yet so far other than Darklings, and Darklings is down to 24. So where do we think a fair bid kind of ends at? And I know it's hard to be put on the spot here, because we're just evaluating, but as you start to do your evaluation, I mean, generally in this setup, and Eric, I'll just let you process what you think some of the bids will be. But generally in this setup, you might be surprised, but blue is very strong in this setup, just like from a pure color perspective. But in this particular game, because of the lack of passing tiles and the dwarves and darklings and fakirs inherent scoring, whoever picks Swarmlings here is going to have, like I said, like a super strong game plan. And so I think they might be a little bit scary to pick into this like actual track, like especially if it's someone's first time playing in front of a crowd or in a tournament or something like that. Like you can imagine yourself scoring points with the Fakirs and doing lots of jumps, because those yellows aren't going to be under fire. There's no color neighbors, no brown, no red. You can imagine scoring with dwarves and carving out your 2 towns, and you can always imagine scoring with darklings. So I mean, Eric, like just to like get a little bit more analytical in here, like what are you thinking about the relative value of these different factions here?
I agree with you. I think Stormlings are probably should be the 30-point faction here. I think yellow and gray with with just no color neighbors in the game, probably getting a bunch of early leech. Those just both seem like pretty safe, good early picks. And like you said, Stormlings, their margin just can be really tight for where all their points are going to come from to keep up. In terms of the bidding, though, I think so. I agree that Darklings are probably the strongest, but I think the thing that is going to be like the thing that's scaring me about this setup. So production, if we could have the hex overlay turned on real quick. Thinking about starting spots here, I think that's the thing that scares me the most. So trying to imagine where people would start. Swarmlings probably going to start D2. That's like a pretty reasonable hex to start next to the Fakirs. Probably start on D3, get a nice good leech triangle with neighbors over there. Darklings have a pretty reasonable opportunity to go C1.
Yes.
That would just be pretty reasonable to like get a bunch of leech over there. Now, if we have Darklings on C1, Swarmlings on D2, Fakirs on D3, that suddenly makes B2 a massively contested hex. Darklings super want that to be able to expand to the north, form a town. Fakirs want that to be able to also expand in the north, form a town. Swarmlings are now fighting Darklings, maybe even for D1, to just like, if the Darklings get cut off at B2, maybe they like use temp shipping and get down to D1. So suddenly the West is super contested, and if those pretty reasonable starting positions happen, like there's suddenly a huge fight in the West. But then also, dwarves are probably starting over on F6. Darklings, I'd give a good shot at starting G5. And if Swarmlings start G6, as has been some of the meta lately, suddenly the Darklings and Swarmlings are also fighting over in the Eastover territory. So it's just going to become like a huge battle where like there is a real world where Darklings get cut off at B2, they get cut off at H7, and they just like run out of spots to expand early. So I think like it's going to be this particular color matchup. There's a lot of uncertainty up in the air about where people are going to start, what power actions they'll take first. Will the Swarmlings try to take the double spade immediately to steal some territory from the Darklings in the east on H7, or will the Darklings use their first action to take H7 and lock up that spot? Even just where the first trading post upgrade happens. If the Darklings choose to upgrade in the east first, they'll be giving the dwarves a bunch of leech and the Swarmlings probably. If they choose to upgrade in the west, they'll be giving the Fakirs a bunch of leech. So this is one where like I get scared to make any predictions on the bidding here, just because so much is up in the air over the first couple of turns. I might be, if I'm trying to play it safe here, I think dwarves are actually probably the next safest pick after Darklings, just because there's less uncertainty with their starting positions and what hexes could get stolen from them.
Yeah, I would have to agree that dwarves are likely, in my mind, the second best option here. Now, while you were talking, just because like we always want to back up some of this stuff with stats, so we use a tool. There's a tool on Snellman that's called Tune All, and we can share it with the group, but we'll drop it in the Twitch chat later so you guys know what we're talking about. But essentially, it just looks at the history of Snellman games, and it looks at just the color factions. It does have nothing to do with the track, has nothing to do with, and there's no landscapes involved as well. But historically, when we look at Swarmlings, Darklings, Dwarves, and Fakirs are a notoriously underused faction. We only have 23 games in that history. And actually, in that history, Swarmlings actually performed the best. So Swarmlings performed the best, followed by Darklings, followed by Dwarves, followed by Fakirs, way, way, way at the back. And now these stats aren't as relevant as usual for us because of the introduction of the landscape and the fact that it's just Snellman, and the fact that a lot of these games might be quite old, and Swarmlings maybe aren't starting G6, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why it's not as relevant as it could be, but it's still relevant. Like I did not expect Swarmlings to be outperforming Darklings in this just color opposition. And 23 games is not a large sample by any means, but it is something to go on, which means that maybe my original intuition, and Nerdcube, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, of Swarmlings being blue being really strong in this matchup. Like, how much do you think that holds in this particular setup?
I still agree that blue is really strong. It really just is the problem of the bonus tiles. Swarmlings can like when the Sanctuary Stronghold bonus scoring tiles in the game, Swarmlings can hopefully expect to get, I don't know, like 16 points from that, maybe even 20 or something. Points just from passing with that bonus tile over the course of the game, along with the shipping bonus tile. They can hopefully score 6 or 9 points or so from that. And there's even an element to later in the game, everyone is going to be fighting for any scoring bonus tile, no matter what it is. So the fewer of them that there are in the game, the less chance there is that the Swarmlings get the one they want. In this case, there's only one they want. It's really good for them. It gives them 2 points per trading post. But the fact that everyone will be fighting over that significantly decreases the chances that the Swarmlings get it over the course of the game. And grabbing that tile a couple times over the course of the game adds up to another 8, 10, 12 points for them. So I just see, compared to an ideal Swarmlings game, or even an average Swarmlings game, where they're going to be able to accumulate hopefully 20 to 30 points from bonus tiles, it's looking like this game that they might be happy to just get 8 points from bonus tiles, and I think that's a pretty big gap to make up. And it is a pretty reasonable track for them. We have people pointing out in chat that opening with a stronghold and maybe with Earth 2 might be good for them to rack up workers for round 4. And then round 2, upgrading their temple to a sanctuary, taking a scoring favor tile. That looks like a really strong opening. They're going to get 2 trading post events where they'll get 3 points for free from their trading posts, and then hopefully be able to convert a ton of workers to points in round 4. So like the track is still great for them, and they still do great in this color matchup. It really just is some of that uncertainty about like fighting for opening territory, and then the bonus tiles I think are just kind of unfortunately killer for them.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, again, let's before the auction finishes, I would love for us to provide the viewers with some thoughts on what a fair auction would be. So I mean, I think we're clear on Darklings being the favorites, and I think we're both pretty clear on Dwarves being second overall. I don't know. Like right now, we're seeing that Dwarves is at 23 and Fakirs is at 30. I'm not even sure if I'm comfortable with that much of a gap. Like my intuition on this, and I would love to hear your feelings on this, is that Fakirs and Dwarves are similar-ish in their scoring opportunities this game, and I think Dwarves, maybe may potentially be a little bit stronger, and you like seeing those later spade rounds with them for that. And for those that don't know, the Dwarves landscape allows you to do jump cults or jump digs during the in between rounds. So getting to that, getting those spades for Dwarves with your landscape down is exceptional, if possible. One of the other things, of course, is that there's more. The thing that scares me about the Dwarves here is when you're talking about C1, D2, D3 and that opening, when dwarves have absolutely no leech, it becomes extremely challenging for them to compete. And yes, swarmlings may start G6, but they also may not. You have a lot of people with this swarmlings meta, and in the landscape trying to make one big mega city, and you could have the more traditional swarmling starting spots of D2, H2. Doesn't seem that likely in a game this high level, but it's definitely not off the table. And if dwarves are completely isolated on E7, F6, no leech for potentially the first 2 or 3 rounds as people duke it out in the West, I don't think that can happen to Fakirs in the same type of way. Although, maybe G5, G6, F6, and then I'm just eating my own words here. What do you think, Eric?
The big problem that I'm seeing for Fakirs, I do agree that like I think the Fakirs have a better chance of getting leech. The next thing I'm looking at though is who's going to get which bonus tiles. So if I'm the dwarves, dwarves get first pick of bonus tiles. They get a spade, right? I'm not really considering anything else. So that's great.
Yep.
Like the fact that they don't get any leech is like kind of counteracted by that they might not get any leech is counteracted by the fact that they get a spade for free.
Yep.
If I'm the Fakirs, then I'm probably okay with either the priest or the 3 power and 1 worker. I don't.
Yeah, and I'm
It's kind
pretty
of a toss up
substantially in
looking at
favor
it.
of the priest there. Yeah,
Priest looks
I'm
pretty
a
good.
huge fan of. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of priest there. I think for Fakirs.
Okay. So then the Swarmlings take the other one. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised to see it go either way. And so Swarmlings are totally fine with 3 worker, 1 power. That gives Darklings access to the 3 power, 1 shipping if they want it,
Yes.
which lets them secure B2. And if they secure B2, and I think that's a pretty reasonable play for them to do, that significantly weakens Fakir's game. That gives Darklings the start they're hoping for, right, to not get trapped in, and that just like hugely puts a damper on Fakir's game to not have access to the north to form another town up there. That they potentially get A5, which is a great spot for jumping stolen from them. They just have a little bit more trouble expanding early. They're probably not getting the double spade round 1. I'd assume the Swarmlings are taking it. They might not get it round 2 because maybe the dwarves have saved up enough power to take it round 2. So there's a few problems for Fakirs there where it's like, wait, there's a chance they don't get any early spades. There's a chance they get some of their hexes stolen. So I agree with this ordering of the factions, like Darklings being the best, dwarves
Yes.
being second best, Fakirs being the third best. I think Darklings have been a little overbid here. Honestly, I think everyone is just pretty good here. To answer your question, to put like hard numbers on it, I'd probably say
Let's do it.
Darklings around 18. I think dwarves around 22, fakirs around 26, and swarmlings at 30 is probably around where I'd put it. So I'd say we're within a couple
Got it.
points on dwarves and fakirs of seeing someone jump to swarmlings.
Okay, and I mean, this is nice to hear. We're roughly on the same page. Although my actual intuition while we were going through and assessing was that I would have darklings at 15, dwarves at 20, fakirs 25, and swarmlings 30. Um, so I do think like darklings are 15 points better than swarmlings here for sure. I think though that the cool thing about this game, what makes it really cool, and I want to go to Twitch chat and see what people are saying, but I think if Swarmlings can play like a perfect game, they'll smash if they start at 30. That's the coolest thing. If they can, maybe whether it be like an Earth 2 line or whatever it may be, like we will have to see some really cool Swarmlings play for them to manage to get the points that they need off of this track. Missing all of those points in the bonus for them to win. But if they're starting at 30 and they've got that lead over these other factions, and we see a special game, I think that will be really cool to see.
Something we haven't talked about much yet is the cults and the cult rewards. So with darklings and fakirs both being priest, like factions that want to do things with their priests other than put them on the cults, we could see a really interesting cult race between the dwarves and the swarmlings. And there's some really juicy cult rewards early here, right? If swarmlings get a
Yes.
priest in round one, if they can pick up a couple priests between round 1 and 2, they can get themselves 4 extra workers if they can get the 3-step on fire and the 3-step on air. And 4 extra
Yep.
workers turns into 8 points in round 4, along with
yeah.
probably the points from winning the cult, power from moving up on the cults. If they can secure the double keys, the 2 cult step town tile before the dwarves, they're potentially looking at winning 3 or maybe even all 4 cults. So yeah, so that's going to be a huge thing early, is just like that early cult fight between the dwarves and swarmlings and who's able to get more 3 steps, who's able to get the 2-step town.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is how Swarming scores points this game, right? Like this is getting the 2 key town, but them between that 2 key town between Swarmlings and Dwarves, I think it's going to be an exceptional race. I think it'll be very, very interesting to see how that works out. But I mean, it's funny when I first saw this track, and the players chose their factions before we could really talk about like what the track, like what appeals to us. But I was like, oh god, this halflings looks incredible here because of the round 2 air worker bonus, right? I thought witches looked incredible as well because of the double air bonus and round 4 digging and the potential to do stuff like that, like with witches opening maybe temple into stronghold or something of that nature, or even just starting stronghold with that shipping bonus and going stronghold 4 dwellings, and then going all digging strats. Like there's some cool stuff that halflings and witches can do, and there's some really cool stuff that that swarmlings can do here as well. Um, coming back to this game again, it looks like the players have gone darklings to 14 here. So I mean, I was more pro darklings than you were even, and it looks like the players are even more pro darklings than I was. Although this is getting closer to what we had suspected. So I'm wondering if anyone's thinking of pulling the trigger on Swarmlings yet.
I'm honestly surprised Zoras hasn't yet. Zoras has been playing Swarmlings a lot on his last few streams, and he's been crushing with them. I think Zoras like we get it here.
It looks like we got it.
But Zoras felt very confident in Darklings. Bid them all the way down to 14, which is it's quite a few points lower than I had them. But round 4 spades, like Darklings are going to destroy there.
Yep.
I don't think a couple point margin either way is going to be the difference in this game. Honestly, I think this is a game that's significantly more about like the meta strategy that each player takes, like what favor tiles Swarmlings choose to take and in what rounds. How aggressively they attack the cults, when priests get taken. Those are going to be the things that decide this game, as opposed to like a couple points here and there in bidding. So if Zoras has a really good line that he's thinking about with Darklings, like power to him for going for it.
And I wonder how set Zoras is on that shipping network and grabbing B2. If production could throw up that the coordinates again, because it's going to get really important in here in us letting the viewers know who won or who is the favorite coming out of the auction. Because in the auction, I think before we know starting placements, I mean, you heard Eric's assessment, you heard my assessment. I said Darklings 15, Dwarves 20, Fakirs 25, and Swarmlings 30. Very close to my assessment there. And it looks like Eric would think that Darklings maybe got a little bit of a raw deal here, and we both think that maybe Dwarves got a little bit of a better deal. But again, you can't really tell who's going to be in the most favorable position until it actually comes to the starting placements and where that first round lead gets to and all of those kinds of good things. But where would you start as Darklings here, Eric? I mean, C1 I think is we discussed that being pretty much a given square. But I mean, there are arguments to start on E5. There are arguments, you know, there are arguments for E10 or for G6 or G5 as well. So I'd be interested to hear where you're thinking.
So it looks like Zoras went with C1 here. What I was just going to say is that I think there's a little bit of meta strategy here in looking at your opponents and which opponent has which faction. So if you're Zoras playing Darklings, you're in terms of rating and the overall like threat level, how people perceive these competitors coming into the tournament. Claybo was like the second seed of the group, the a high rated
sure.
player. A lot of people have respect for him. So as Zoras, going C1 puts a little bit of pressure on Stormlings. It gives them a little leech, but also you get leech from them. Maybe threaten the D1 hex. It possibly forces Stormlings to play a little suboptimally early. They don't get that easy C1 hex, like that single dig to, help them expand. So I think Zoras's thought here is that the Stormlings player is more threatening to himself than the Fakir's player, and so going C1 instead of E5 to just slightly handicap the Stormlings player and maybe give the Fakir's player a little bit easier of a game than they could have. That's my guess as to what his thought was.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I still think that I think given that he gets that network tile, that +1 shipping, that B2, a dig B2 may very well be his very first move. Especially considering Swarmlings in the game. I mean, it does not give up Earth 1. It grabs an extremely important hex. I think then Fakirs is kind of forced to try and make towns, D3 through E3 through E2, as well as, if Darklings doesn't, something that would I think really throw a wrench in Dwarves' plan is if Darklings does one of these weird C1 E5 starts. What do you think about that?
C1 E5. I don't really like that, honestly. I think Fakir's went E8.
Fakirs
That's interesting.
E8. That is, I honestly, I hate to say it because I'm hoping to see a good game from CeePhi. I don't like that at all. I think that
I
middle.
think the thought.
Go ahead, Eric.
I like the thought. I mean, like I've seen players do this, and I understand the thought behind it. I think his thought is, Fakir's like, like priests. They like building temples. Getting even 2 temples early on, like over the course of rounds 1 and 2, is very appealing. And so starting with that neighbor on, with the engineers on E7 to get that neighbor for a temple is like, I'm assuming what's going through his mind. The thing I just don't like here is it now doesn't make him a threat to take the double spade in the first round because he
Yep.
doesn't have anywhere to put that second spade unless he gets a priest. So if, for example, he wanted to take like the worker 3 worker 1 power bonus tile, or 3 power 1 worker bonus tile, and threaten that he could take the double spade round 1. He just can't do that anymore. He doesn't have a place to put the second spade. So
And this is, to me, this is where this is worst case scenario for Zoras in my mind. The way that CeePhi puts this here. The reason why I'm thinking this is worst case scenario is if my plan is to grab this network tile and win this race to B2, that's cool and everything. But I mean, if he just upgrades C1, if I'm Claybo and I fear Zoras the most, which I rightfully do, I just upgrade on D5 and I think everyone follows me there. And then Darklings gets no leech. You're racing to B2, and Fakirs looks like they might have no intention of ever going there. It is an interesting setup here. I don't. If I'm Darklings, I really hate the way that this played out. What do you think, Eric?
yeah, this is this is not what Darklings were hoping for. Like they do get easy access to in the east now. They don't have a neighbor. The Stormlings didn't take that blue to complete the gray black blue triangle in the east, which could have caused problems for Darklings. But their ability to connect in the north is now threatened.
Yep.
Yeah, and like you said, I think there's a very real chance that they could get 0 leech in round 1. Which, granted, like they're more okay with than most
Of
factions because
course.
they start with a priest. But it's still just not like great for his ability to snowball. Zoras is definitely hoping to get a sanctuary in either round 1 or 2, and he's going to need a pretty significant amount of leech to do that. And it doesn't seem like that's going to be coming
Exactly.
right now.
Well, I think part of the reason why you hope that you're bidding Darklings in at 15 is that you expect to either be part of that, that triangle up in the, up on C1, or you think you're going to be part of the triangle over on the eastern continent. And now he's out of one of those triangles, which like really, really, I think disintegrates some of the value of what you were bidding on Darklings for in the first place. Also, just to call it out here, he did not, in fact, go for that temp shipping. He went 4 coins and a called step. So we were completely off base on what we thought was the clear game plan here.
I don't think it's. I don't think this is that surprising. My guess would be that Zoras is now going for the sanctuary opening. Like that's his hope, is that he gets the upgrades next to him.
Yep.
Darklings have the ability to build a sanctuary in round 1, like relatively easily. With I think there's 3 different bonus tiles if they get the 3 power 1 worker, the 2 workers in the sanctuary stronghold scoring, or the 4 coins and 1 cult step. Like those are the 3 bonus tiles that give them the easiest path to building a sanctuary. And look at that, he got pretty lucky. Stormlings chose him to upgrade
Yes.
next to. So it's we'll see what happens, but like this is looking good for Zoras. Like it looks like he's going for that round 1 sanctuary, and
Oh, and
I guess just hoping that he can still nab B2 later.
yeah, I mean this looks. What this is the hardest way for him to do it though. He doesn't have the extra worker. He's going to need a lot of power. I mean, it looks like he might get it though. It looks like Dwarves is the one left out of the leech party here, which I'm sure Istari can't be thrilled with, um, especially given how those placements went. And it'd be interesting to see here the way that Istari wants to play this. But yeah, I think Zoras can definitely be happy with how this went, especially with how it could have gone. Um, I'll just I'll watch the kind of what Astari is doing here. Eric, do you have Twitch chat up by any chance? See what if there's any comments from the viewers.
Yeah, people were talking about the placements. The comment about Swarmling's placement. Swarmlings choosing to not go over in the east is possibly threatening the Darklings' connection dreams, as well as like choosing to not give Darklings early leech in the east. So that seems to be the plan there. Although it confuses me then why Swarmlings chose to give Darklings leech anyways by upgrading in the west. Yeah, Ranior is pointing out that this starting spot of D5, this dwelling that the Swarmlings have in the center here, is just a little bit awkward for Swarmlings.
Yeah.
To be able to form a town there, they're going to need a bridge somewhere. And now, dwarves taking their spade there kind of threatens that green hex. So yeah, Swarmlings are like just that starting position has started to move a little bit out of the meta, and this is exactly the reason why.
Yes.
It's just a little bit awkward for them to try to form a town there while competing for hexes and getting bridges and doing all the other things they want to do to get their economy going.
Yeah, and I mean, I couldn't stress enough as well. I think the importance of Swarmlings in particular here getting early towns. Like the towns need to come before round 4, and putting starting there on what is it, D5, it just seems irresponsible from like the way that I would have played these Swarmlings here. I'm really interested. I mean, Claybo is obviously a fantastic player. Claybo also just passing on the double spade there, which I guess is fine because no one else has the power to take it. but very interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting start here.
what you said about the swarmlings needing to form towns, that's one of the most powerful things for swarmlings about round 4 spades. Besides, like I mentioned, being able to convert one worker to 2 points is great for them. They also have the ability in round 4, if they play their cards right, they should be completing both of their towns, 2 towns in round 4. Just
Mhm.
with the way their stronghold works, with being able to upgrade to 1 trading post per round, they end up with just being able to build the perfect number of structures in round 4 to complete 2 towns. And Stormling's Towns gives them 3 workers. So they're able to complete 2 towns and get 3 workers apiece. That's 6 workers they're getting. So they're able to do 6 extra digs and get 12 extra points in round 4. That's a huge deal. And having to form that bridge to form your town in the center just so dramatically decreases the odds that you're going to be getting that town in round 4, which is a big detriment for them, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I think that, maybe here Claybo is thinking about taking workers and coins and building a sanctuary, but oh, and you know what? Just as I said that, he takes a double spade. So I mean, he's certainly got enough leech to make the sanctuary round 1 possible. I am not the best Swarmlings player in the world by any means, but I think that sanctuary round 1 may have been an interesting play here rather than even taking the double spade. And then, when oftentimes when you're thinking about upgrading digging, just ignoring the spade actions entirely is something that is possible. Although, there's the argument. It's definitely not the easiest path to go. It's definitely not. This is a safer path, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think like I played a decent amount of Swarmlings, and I think the struggle that I'm still trying to get a handle on is uh, trying to find a way to, because there's a lot of things Stormlings want to do, especially in a round 4 digging. They want to get enough dwellings out that they have a good worker income, so that they're able to accumulate a lot of workers by round 4, and they can actually make advantage of upgrading digging. They want to plan out their towns, get their towns ready so that they can complete those in round 4 and get, or at least by round 4 and get the extra workers. They want to lock up their territory so that people don't steal it. They want to, build temples so that they can get priests to put them on cults to win cults, but they also need those priests to upgrade shipping and digging to get out dwelling. So like the Stormlings just have so many priorities early on as they struggle to get their economy up and going. Once they get it up and going, once they get their upgraded shipping and upgraded digging, Stormlings are unstoppable. They have so many resources, and
Yep.
everything's, the power actions are comparably cheaper for them. It's getting that up and going and figuring out the right order to, should I build my sanctuary turn 1 or should I hold it off till turn 2 because I can take the double spade? Like those are the questions that take the Stormlings down just such a dramatically different line depending on what they pick. And in this one, Claybo opted for the double dig, which it's hard to say it's wrong. It's just
Yes.
there was just a dramatically different line where he takes the workers and the coins and tries to go for a sanctuary instead. And it's so different. And it's one of those things where like we'll never know how it would have played out.
We'll never know.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I like Sanctuary here over the double dig is you can secure Earth 2 and Water 1 if you choose. Um, I think that's pretty compelling. Um, I I don't know about this. What do you think here? Is B2 more important here, or is getting that priest to air more important here in your mind?
Uh, I think B2 is a good call.
That's interesting. We're, so
So I
we're
mean,
we're diverging already here. I would have substantially preferred a priest to air here.
well, so since he already got beaten the priest to fire, Fakir still can get the first priest to air. Like there still is a pretty reasonable shot of that. If they want to pass first to take the power tile they want or the bonus tile they want, they can still throw a priest to air. So the fact that he wasn't getting the bonus this round, I was think getting 2 workers in round 2 is of course worse than getting 2 workers in round 1. Um, so the fact that Zoras already beat him to that first priest on fire, you know, makes it a little bit more okay to like say, okay, maybe I'm not playing that cult game. Maybe I'm not getting that cult
Yep.
bonus. Let me just lock up my territory instead. Because this is a pretty big handicap to Zoras's game right now. And it's a pretty big boon to the Fakir's game, right? Like being able to have this access to the north, they'll probably get a neighbor from the dwarves up there eventually. They can form another town there now. And that's a pretty big deal for them. So I think, locking this territory up early was a really good idea.
Okay. I mean, I can actually get behind that, and it obviously does hurt Darklings a lot. I think this is exactly why we both kind of just assume that Darkling starts with network, though, because if you look at the board state and the way that the board state is set up right now, Dark, Zoras is going to get his Sanctuary next turn for sure because he's going to get those 2 extra workers on fire, which is great. But I mean, what's his plan here? Because the Swarmlings and the Dwarves are going to be so strong on the cults. It's going to be very hard for him to connect. It's looking tough. I mean, it's looking tough without that network and without expanding through the north there. Although I wonder, and I would love to chat with him after the game about this. I wonder if his plan was to take that network tile, the shipping +1, and he changed his mind once Swarmling started on D5. That may also have influenced that decision for sure.
I could
Because he
definitely
may
see that.
never get across anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, it was looking less likely that he would connect to the north anyways. And in this case, putting the priest on fire, uh, getting the cult step for an extra worker. That cult step is now giving Zoras a worker, um, and getting those 4 coins, which is what he needs to form a sanctuary if that's what he's trying to do. Like, yeah, I think it's a good, potentially a good pivot on his part. But I think his plan now is going to have to be hoarding those priests, um, for round 4. Like he's going to have to just go really hard on the track scoring. He's going to have to probably build a trading post or two, you know,
Yep.
do a bunch of digs and build a bunch of dwellings, upgrade one of those trading posts to a temple for water 1, build a bunch more trading posts, and then cap it off with a bunch of dwellings. Like Zoras is going to need to get 3 towns and have an insane amount of scoring on the track, in the last 3 or 4 rounds, because he's probably not going to end up doing very well on cults in the end, with dwarves and swarmlings in the game, and he's probably not getting any network points. Like there's even a reasonable chance that swarmlings. I guess it'll be an interesting race for 3rd place between swarmlings and darklings, but um, yeah. And meanwhile, I'd say I think Swarmlings have a decent game going, right? They got the double spade. They're going to have a good opening. And dwarves, I really like where dwarves are at,
Yep.
especially if Swarmlings build this last available blue space. Um, Dwarves have the ability to take the 3 power temporary shipping,
Yep.
and not actually use it for any temporary shipping. They can't use that, of course, but use it to just take the double spade, round 2. And so the dwarves will be starting off with, let's say they took Earth 2, which is great for them. They were able to start off with an econ favor, in Earth 2, get their work economy going, get the double spade round 2. Yeah, like I kind of like where they're at a lot. And Swarmlings are likely not going to take Earth 1. I'd be pretty surprised that if Swarmlings cared about taking Earth 1 this game. So dwarves, I think, are probably correctly making a call that they can wait on Earth 1 and still get it later. So I think the dwarves played this very well. They played a little greedy, like, upgrading their trading post where they did to hopefully get some extra leech from the swarmlings. But yeah, I think they played this great and are going to be in great position. They did just pass for 6 coins though, so they're going to be a little bit of power short. But I mean, putting a priest to a cult gets them that extra power. There's no one else that's a threat right now to take the 2 spades.
Yeah, I actually really like the pass. So I originally, when you first said it, I said, of course, let's pass for that 3 power and shipping. But I do like the pass for the coins because in an ideal world here, um, we can get priest to water as dwarves here, or priest to air, depending on your game plan. There's a whole bunch of different game plans, but I think I would prefer the priest to water. Although I guess air, you get the workers already. Maybe it is air. Anyway, we can discuss the merits of that later. But I like dwarf sanctuary here for Earth 1. You get closer to that early town. Um, you're going to get more leech in the middle. A swarmling is going to upgrade there. I think because you were leech starved in round 1, that leech is really important. I think Swarmlings is certainly putting down this dwelling. I'd be really surprised if he didn't. I mean, I would. Oh, that's not actually true. Would If you're Swarmlings here, do you build a temple or do you build this put this dwelling down?
I really don't know. Like I said, this is where the diverging lines start to come in. It's like the statistics. that exist on Board Game Geek for best Swarmlings openings. It's like pretty even between Stronghold Trading Post 2 dwellings and Stronghold Temple 1 dwelling. I think building the temple to start getting priests out is where I would go. The question is then, what do you take with that? Earth 1 has been left to you, and like we mentioned, dwarves are doing really well, and so there's something to be said for just denying dwarves Earth 1. You're probably going to build another 6 or so dwellings throughout the game at least, and so that's 12 points from Earth 1. Water 1 is 15 points throughout the course of the game. Okay, Stormlings past year, so they didn't go for the dwelling or the temple, which is not what I was expecting.
I think that's some fancy play syndrome. I really don't like that. A dwelling in round 1 is 5 worker income throughout the game, right? It's pretty substantial. I don't think Zoras is going for that trading post bonus anyway. I don't understand that at all. I don't understand that one at all.
The thing I can think of is that if the Swarmlings really wanted that and they really thought Zoras was going to pass for it, but arguably you just gave Zoras a better tile. Like he'd much prefer the 3 power 1 worker, like to 1 coin and 1 worker. So yeah, I'm not sure like what Claybo's thought process for not doing either. Like he easily had the resources to build either a temple or a dwelling, and I think either one gives him what he wants, right? Just more economy or a priest. So yeah, the only thing I can think of was that he was like really worried about locking up that that tile for what might be 4 points and a worker and a coin for him, which is it's good, but I don't know that it was good enough to pass that early.
Oh yeah, I think I really hate it. We'll have to talk to Claybo about that after the game because I mean I think temple there, and we could argue about what he should take with that temple, whether it be Earth 1 or Water 1 or Earth 2. I like the Earth 2 line, especially because it's looking like he's going to be able to secure these towns with that double dig in round 1, and with all the early leech that he got and stuff like that. Like he's on the economic track to secure those towns, and if he just goes temple, anyway, maybe there's something that we're not seeing here.
The thing I am seeing actually, this is like pretty important, is if he wanted to get his sanctuary round 2, he needs enough workers and coins, and so it's possible that he just wanted to leave that trading post up just because he preferred 2 coins and 2 power income to a priest, because that's what he needs to build a sanctuary. And building that extra dwelling, it generates an extra worker income, but it also costs 2 workers and 3 coins, and he needs those workers and coins to build the sanctuary. So I'm guessing that's what he was going for, is he really wants this early town in the west, and he just didn't have the resources to both get out the dwelling or the temple last turn and be able to build the sanctuary this turn. Because so building a sanctuary requires, like, from a trading post, it's going to require 8 workers and 14 coins. So yep, he just took the workers. He now has 1 worker and 1 coin left over. So yeah, he was on a razor thin edge there for being able to build this sanctuary, and so yeah, and that's got to be why he did what he did. And putting it in that light definitely doesn't make it a bad decision. Like, being able to get that sanctuary out this turn is huge. Yeah.
I still have a feeling that he probably would have been able to do it with a priest to one of these tracks and some of this leech he's going to get from dwarves. But I mean, we don't need to calculate that live or anything like that. I'm sure Twitch chat I'm sure someone much quicker than us has already calculated it, and we can determine later if it was a mistake or not. But it definitely lets us understand his decision, right? And Eric, you're totally right. Fakirs does get priest to air here, so that early B2 seems like easily the best line then, if this is the case. So I certainly would have blundered myself away from something that good. The other thing that's interesting to see, so dwarves does take water. The water dragon does build the sanctuary as I predicted. It looks like dwarves is going to get this double dig, man. This is exactly what we said is their ideal situation here, right? Sanctuary for Earth 1, a priest to either water or air, depending on how you want to play it, and then the double dig, and it looks like it happened for them. Like, what a start.
This is, so considering dwarves Have dwarves still not leached a single power from anyone else? I don't. Yeah, they haven't leached a
Nothing.
single power from an opponent. And I'd say they're in the best position. They have Sanctuary. They have Earth 1, Earth 2. They're doing well in the cults. They're going to get some good cult income next round, and in round 4, they've got none of their territory that they need is contested. Like this is the dream for dwarves.
Is the
So I
dream.
really like what they've got going on.
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting here. So if he, goes ahead and double digs here, which I would advise. I mean, I think it's very clearly the best play. Um, if he goes ahead and uses this double dig here, does he put down his landscape? And now I would normally say, you use all of the available hexes for yourself for that actual dwellings. But this landscape is going to be really valuable for him in turn 3 if he gets to that 4th water step, because it's going to let him jump, right? And there's not necessarily a guarantee that he's getting another dig because he's got no power left. So does he put down this landscape now? And I don't
I
know.
think it would actually be a good move. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
and
and he went
he
ahead and
goes
did
ahead and
it.
does it, and he goes ahead and does it. Yeah, that I think that's right. Like normally, I think it's really bad, and I see a lot of like more novice players putting down their landscapes way too early when they really need that space for their dwelling income, um, because the dwelling income is so important. But I think in this particular case, putting that landscape down early is pretty strong. Additionally, this is one of the best spots for it. I don't remember the coordinates. F4. F4 is really strong because it allows you to grab um, G1 here. Yes, G1 as well directly from it, and you can potentially lose this red with no repercussions. It looks like he's going to get it anyway, but just a really, really, I think, savvy play here, especially because it is unlikely his connection is going to be. Um, I just don't think his connection is going to be disrupted in this game. It doesn't look like that's the way that this game is trending. Love what
Exactly.
Dwarves is doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, like, yeah, the landscape, for anyone watching who doesn't know, the landscape allows you to skip one extra hex when you're uh, like from that space when you're tunneling with dwarves, and that includes allowing your structures to be connected. So that landscape is a great tool for being able to connect in like unexpected ways with dwarves, because being able to skip 2 spaces and still have your structures be connected is so powerful. But like you pointed out, Chris, there's not really any danger of the dwarves not being able to connect here, and so using the landscape this early for a purpose other than connecting is totally fine because he feels pretty safe. Um, the thing I will say is that water spade that he's going to get at the end of round 3 now, that the dwarves are going to get at the end of round 3. Like, yes, you can use that to tunnel and get 4 points for it, but there's also other places you'd
Fair
like
enough.
to use that spade. So it was like, I don't think it was right or wrong either way to put the landscape down there. They're pretty similar in my mind in terms of like, yeah, being able to put the landscape down now and get an extra 4 points out of the cult spade is great, but not the only line and that I think he had.
I agree 100%. I think either way was fine. I think let's go back for a second here to the just the decision, like right off the bat with dwarves here to go to D4, dig there and upgrade there, and like he's starting to see that seems like maybe like just like a random play. Like why wouldn't you not just dig after you upgrade your temple? Like he was very thoughtful about what was the likelihood of Swarmlings doing something versus Fakirs doing something there, and getting the sanctuary up there where he's actually going to get some additional leech in these like rounds 1, 2, and 3. Just a huge move that I think was something that we didn't talk a lot about, but was really impressive. I mean, it's what I would have done, and I think that not necessarily a lot of players would have considered making sure that they got into a spot where they're being leech starved, they're going to have an opportunity to recover some of that leech.
Yeah, I think it's a great move. They also managed to starve the Fakirs of 3 leech by doing that, right? By not upgrading next to them. The Fakirs have 3 less leech than they otherwise would. Yeah, they're going to get some extra leech when Swarmlings build on this blue that they have available. And I mean, they probably force Swarmlings to play like slightly differently than they otherwise would have by trying to lock up that green space early enough. Maybe Claybo didn't want to take the double spade in round
Yeah.
one. He wanted
Yep.
to take other power actions, but he felt like he was forced to start locking up his territory. So I think that's like the very impressive play of the game so far. That's like, it seems like a small thing, but like you point out, is having some pretty major ramifications.
I couldn't agree more. Let's take a second here while CeePhi is thinking about his first move here. And we could argue what he's trying to do, but I want to, before we look at the actual gameplay of what he's attempting to do here, let's look at the favors that everyone has. So it's really interesting. So Darklings went with Earth 1, Earth 2 in that order. Swarmlings went with Water 1, Air 1. So skipping the Earth 2 that we had anticipated as potential favorite for them. Fakirs started with Earth 1, foregoing what I thought was like a very clear Air 2 Fakir's game with the double air call. You've got the air, Air 2, the worker air, and the round 5 spade, and then dwarves with Earth 2, Earth 1 as well, mirroring Darklings. Now, I'm wondering what you think about these choices.
Yeah, so I mean, the Darklings doesn't surprise me that much. Zoras, we haven't talked about his game much, but he did not get off to a great start, honestly. His first round, he only started with a temple and a dwelling, and he's only, was able to get sanctuary and 2 dwellings out by the end of round 2. So Zoras kind of needs resources. So taking that second favor tile being, an economic favor, totally understandable. And there's a pretty good amount of coins in the game. He's going to get an influx of coins from the Earth Cult in round 4. There's a lot of coins on the bonus tiles, so saying that he wanted, workers this game totally makes sense. Also with like, there's some there's a trading post round 3, which usually means you're going to be sacrificing some of your worker economy. Totally, agree with what Zoras did there with favor tiles.
Yep.
Swarmlings makes a lot of sense. We had talked about some fancy stuff with Earth 2, maybe denying Earth 1. But I think just the good old Water 1, Air 1 is great here. It's going to be the most points for him. Like based on the line of play he's taking, it seems like he's going to be building few structures, going to be building tall, just trying to scrounge points where he can. And I think the Air 1, Water 1 play is perfect for him there. Dwarves, of course, love Earth 1. Earth 1, Earth 2. It's exactly what they want. If they could get that every game, I think they'd be happy.
Yep.
And Fakirs, that's the place where I'll disagree with you. Actually, I think that Air 2 is interesting, and would have been great. Wouldn't have been a problem with that. But I think Fakirs just need Air 2 significantly less when they have their landscape. As we pointed out, their landscape is almost like starting with Fire 1. So in a non-landscape game, Fakirs definitely need to find a way to build their early economy, and they almost should always take Fire 1 or Air 2 or some early economic favor. But I think in a game like this, just locking up points is going to be really important, possibly more important than building this big economy. And they just don't need to build that big economy when they already have their landscape is good. They were able to get their landscape down last round, and so that's going to churn out for them. However many, somewhere between 12 and 20 coins for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I'm. You know what? I get it. I get the Earth 1. I mean, there's an argument to be made that Fakirs can start Air 2 into Earth 1 a lot of times in this game. Swarmlings has so many paths to non-Earth 1 games, and I don't think that he's necessarily going to draft Earth 1 to spite Fakirs necessarily, especially in a game like this where he is the lowest ranked opponent. Like, there's not necessarily like a fear that you're gifting this guy Earth 1. But I do agree, and the thing is, I think you're right. I think like a lot of times I've seen recently, Fakirs end the game with like 18 coins or something crazy like that, just because the players aren't used to the landscape and what it does for Fakirs. So perhaps you're right. Perhaps this Air 2 idea was not as viable as I was thinking.
So Zoras just advanced his shipping, and this is really interesting. So he's got the temporary shipping bonus tile, just advances shipping. It looks like he is going to try to come down to the center and start to threaten those center black and brown and yellow hexes. I think this is going to be a really big deal for a couple reasons. The biggest of which is Fakirs would love, to be there. Fakirs would love to be in the middle. To connect all their stuff together, to potentially form a town there or just secure that territory. So I'm curious to see. CeePhi has a bunch of workers right now, and I think there's something to be said for uh, doing a carpet flight and just locking up that brown in the center there. It would just be pretty disastrous to like lose out on so many key hexes in the middle. And it's so great for Darkling's game if they're able to find a way out of there with their 2 shipping to just start expanding, spreading down some dwellings. That's one of their ways out of this game is like Darklings can connect now. Like with a couple shipping, Darklings are now starting to find a path to connect through the south. And yeah, so if I'm Fakirs, I'm like a little bit worried about just like giving them free reign to the center and also not having the center for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, if I'm Zoras here, can we get this overlay production just for a second here, just so we can talk about these hexes? Because I'm trying to, pull an alchemist game plan here potentially and go E5, B3, A8, burn power for a priest and double dig B4, and then you're through, and then you're home free, and then all of a sudden you're connected. And I don't know if there's anything that anyone can do to stop him if he wants to take that path. He's got the 4 workers, he's got enough coins. He has enough priest to burn down for he has enough power to burn down for that extra priest to dig. It doesn't look like anyone's going to steal E5, B3, or A8 from him, and it doesn't look like Swarmlings is necessarily going to prioritize, beating him to B5. Like that's a way for him to do this. The thing about that plan is then can he wait till next turn to double dig B4 to get the extra points? Maybe he can wait and B4. It's on the screen. That's good. I'm just trying to think of like how because he's not going to win cults necessarily. Maybe he wins Earth and Fire, but he's pretty substantially behind right now. He's almost 20 points behind Swarmlings. How does he make this up? Maybe connecting and competing on network is a way to do this, especially giving Fakirs doesn't look like they have a high economy game going. Dwarves just look strong to me.
I wanted to come back to dwarves here. They chose an interesting line here. They had a spade. They had the spade bonus tile this round, and they could have taken that spade on the red in the west. Just hoping to complete their town, or connect to another gray, get 2 more dwellings out. But instead, they chose to use that spade on the red in the center, upgrade to a trading post, complete their town, and beat the Stormlings to the 2 keys. So we were talking about how important the 2 cult step town was going to be. That 2 cult step town over the course of the game is going to give them, a spade on water at the end of this round. It's going to give them 2 extra coins at the end of next round, and it's going to help them get another spade on air at the end of that round. As you pointed out, he's already got his landscape down, so both of those cult spades can be used, by jumping, by tunneling to give him, 4 points each. And now he actually, taking the 2 cult step town gave him a ton of power, and he actually has enough now to take the single dig or the double dig and still get down 2 more dwellings. So I just absolutely love this line of play that he's going down. He's locking up cults, he's locking up territory, preparing himself for the future cult rewards. This is like, I mean, we came in with a little bit of question marks about Istari's game, having played mostly 2-player games. To me, this is like a flawless Dwarves game, and it's not even under ideal circumstances because of how little leech he got early on.
Yeah, he's playing phenomenally. He's obviously a fearsome opponent. I'm very interested, and I would love to talk more about Istari in a second, but I'm very interested actually in your line for dwarves here, because my line here would be to go temple for water 1, secure the extra priest income because now I'm very focused on these cults. Throw another priest to water and get those 2 spades on water here. Then you secure water 1 for trading posts in round 5, because there will be like Darklings wants it for sure. Fakirs wants it for sure. Fakirs has already taken water 1, right? So you get water 1 before Darklings, you get that extra spade, and I wonder if that's something you would consider as well.
Yeah, no, I like that line a lot. I hadn't actually seen that, but I was focused on getting the double spade. But you're right that if you can save your power for next round to take the double spade next round, that would be a little more ideal. And yeah, locking up water 1 and getting an extra cult spade, like why not do that? He's got that spare priest sitting around, and he's got exactly 5 coins and 2 workers sitting around. So
Exactly.
hang on to that 6 power, use it next round for a spade or two. Yeah, I like that line a lot. Looks like he's thinking for a while now, so it might I
Yeah,
think
well, there's
a tricky line which one he's going to take. So I wouldn't fault him for either line, but I like yours a bit better.
yeah, no, it's totally fair. I just think like, yeah, if you can get that free spade from the cult, um, there's just different ways to play it, and that first trading post for dwarves is very nice. Um, it's a really nice trading post because it gives you 3 coins, but I think securing water 1 here is really important, especially because of that round 5 trading post. I mean, if there was no round 5 trading post scoring and there might be paths to go down where you're not building a lot of trading posts, then sure, skip on water 1. But just because you also have the 2 cult town, you better be winning some. That's a cheap town. That's only a 2-point town. You better be winning some cults and getting those 2 priest income each turn. Just huge when you have that. I think some players, and this is like for the whole audience, like try to synergize what you're doing, your whole game plan, right? You have to have a macro strategy. And if you're taking that 2 cult town, you're not just taking it because whatever, right? You're taking it because you plan to win some cults. And then, if you can reinforce that game plan with a temple and then have 2 priest income each round while securing that extra spade, I mean, that's incredible. It looks like, however, we're talking about this. He does not go ahead and do that. He goes ahead and builds another trading post. So um, no dice on that.
Yeah. This was the line that neither of us were talking about, but I mean, I still see the merits here. He's got a very strong worker economy with having taken Earth 2 already. So he's feeling good about his worker income. Just kind of wants some coin income, I'm assuming, right? So keeping up 2 trading posts is perfectly fine. And I think there's not really a problem with not having water 1, just building your trading posts in the trading post round and taking air 1 later. Um, if he chooses to take air 1 in round 5 with having 4 trading posts out, that's almost as good as water 1 and gets you the coin income of letting you keep your trading posts up along the way. So um, yeah, 2 fairly diverging paths. I think I like the plan of getting a second temple to race the cults, but I don't see that it'll be much of a problem to win at least 1 or 2 cults anyways. Like with fakirs and darklings in the game and having already secured the 2 key town, and with swarmings are going to have to use their priests to advance digging next round. So I think dwarves are already at like a pretty good place on the cults where they're going to be beating their opponents to a lot of the priest spots. So yeah, I don't think this is that bad still, and I think he's in really good shape to like still keep going on the cults and like keep his coin economy alive.
I for sure think that he's playing a wonderful game. I think this is his first big misstep, though. I really think building this trading post is bad because I mean, if he has the opportunity to get down 2 more dwellings instead of that, I mean that just has to be better here. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm overemphasizing this, but this seems like the first divergent thing that I don't really love. Um, and
Yeah,
it looks like we have you agree then.
I agree. I think it was a better line, but I still got my money on Istari as being in the best spot here.
Okay, so I think this is a great time to do this because we're about to hit the mid game. So we're about to hit the mid game. I think Zoras. I would love to see if Zoras takes my line here of taking B3 and then across the top A8. I think it is, or A7 potentially, and then either saving his digs, but trying to win that race to connect. I mean, he has every opportunity to do it here if he wants to take that line. He can also just hunker down the center. There's some different things he can do. He can build a trading post here. I don't like it at all. But if he thinks he can beat dwarves to water 1 and then score a ton of points in round 5 with water 1, I can see the appeal of that as well. Um,
Yeah,
but
I think if I were Zoras, I might consider taking the workers, and you could build 3 dwellings in a trading post right now. Like he's got the resources to do that. Taking the workers, like when what he's probably going to need in the future are coins, is always a little bit suspect. But it just lines up really well with like he's got the temp shipping, so he wants to take advantage of that. But getting a trading post down now for 3 points and the opportunity to like beat dwarves to water 1
to water
later
1,
is really important.
I think that's why he's settling down for a think here. because there's also the argument to be made that he should be taking a priest as well, right? And either using it this round if he thinks he needs the tempo, or saving it for next round as well. So, um, and here Source putting his dwelling here puzzles me a little bit. I think this is the least under fire. I mean, maybe he's just putting down 3 dwellings this turn though, and in
I
which case
think
the order, I guess, doesn't matter as much.
I think this is actually pretty reasonable. You were talking about connecting through the north, but I think that is actually, that is a little bit under fire, and there's no certainty that it'll be able to connect through the north. I think connecting through the south seems like by far his safest plan, and so just starting down that path now is pretty reasonable. To just, who knows how many dwellings he'll have later on in the game, and he might not just have enough physical dwellings to place if he tries to expand too hard in the north and the south. So I think picking the one that's like you're most likely to be able to connect through, which in this case is the south, is pretty reasonable. He's probably going to get a neighbor from the dwarves. I'd
Yep.
expect the dwarves will use that their end of round spade on that green right above him.
Yes.
So he's looking at putting his third town, or a town, down here in the south right there, and just starting to lock up that position is probably pretty good.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I wonder, was Zoras beating Swarmlings to B5 anyway? Maybe if he digs both, maybe if he takes the priest and digs both this turn, because then he has first turn access to B5, but maybe not, because Swarmlings passes before him in either case, right? And they're about to dig this. So maybe he just never wins the race to B5, in which case this is definitely better. We saw Istari throwing a priest to Earth, so I prefer Earth to Water now that he did not go the Water 1 route. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Let's look at the Fakir's game a bit. I don't think we've talked about them as much.
Yeah.
They've got their 2 temples down, and they've got a landscape down, which is like, that's what you want, right? Like, if all you told me about someone's Fakir's game was that by the end of round 3 they were able to get 2 temples, and their landscape down, I'd say like they're probably in at least respectable shape. And so, yeah, I think the starting positions that the Fakir's chose like still leave them in a few like vulnerable spots. Like we talked about, the middle is still a little bit contested. Will Zoras take that brown in the center is still a big question mark. But they, Fakir's secured B2. They're doing pretty well on resources. They've been passing relatively early most rounds and leaving a few resources in their pool. So maybe they should have been able to get a few more dwellings out than they have. But overall, I mean, like, I think it's not that bad. They're sitting at a reasonable point total. Like I said, with good priest production, and like, yeah, they have at least 1 town carved out. So I think Fakir's game is going okay.
I think it's going okay too, but I do think they're leaving much too much on the table. I wasn't paying substantial attention to see if they could afford single spade here, but leaving 6 workers, a priest, 3 coins, like there's this funny thing in Terra Mystica that I actually think it makes the game really beautiful. Is you're trading tempo for economy in a lot of senses. Like the way that it works is that the earlier you pass, you get the best bonus cards, and you get your first choice at the power items. But the earlier you pass, it means that you've done less in that round, and the less that you've done in that round that just happened, the worse your economy is going to be, right? And so you're always trading economic potential for this tempo potential, or this tempo advantage. And my feeling on CeePhi's game thus far is that he has far too often just prioritize that tempo advantage over this economic advantage. That it seems like it's too much one way over the other. I don't know what you think here.
No, I agree here. Yeah, like, passing with 6 workers and 3 coins is just a lot, right? He was easily able to do a hard dig and get out 2 more dwellings this round, and that's 2 more dwellings that he has in the board that are providing their worker income right back to him for next round.
Yep.
my guess his thought here was like, really securing the double spade for next round. And the double spade's going to be really valuable. It's worth 4 points and helps him get some stuff down. But I do agree that, sometimes you have to push it a little bit. Like sometimes that's the difference between getting a second or third and a first place is like taking those slight extra risks to like, can I eke out that one extra action to get one more dwelling down, which will help me beat someone else by one dwelling in network at the end of the game. And that one extra dwelling in network can be an 8-point swing. So I think I like his game, but yeah, I agreed that like maybe not taking enough risks, especially against like how quality everyone else's games are turning out. I think everyone else is having everyone's having a solid game here. So in the end, it might be the person who takes slightly more risks, passes at slightly, more opportune times, and just ekes out the most potential out of the resources.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I'm looking in the Twitch chat here, and it's just it looks like we've got Chris Bizzle in the chat here, saying that Darkling should have increased shipping. I don't understand. Do you understand what he's trying to get at there? To get to 3 spots? I don't. Oh, he wants Darklings to increase shipping to get to B5 first. That seems. I see what Bizzle's saying here, but I mean that seems like an awful lot to pay to just win to B5 there. Maybe that's the right thing to do though. I don't know.
And consider it because it's wrong, Bizzle.
Never crossed my mind. Just too bad of a play.
We're only thinking about good lines. No, I mean I see that, but like we were talking about, like I think this connecting through the south like is so much easier. Like you don't have like throwing away a priest and 4 coins right before a spade event is a lot to ask just to lock up, an alternative and maybe slightly better connection path. But I think this line that Zoras took is great. He did build the trading posts that we were talking about. He'll now like have the ability to like have the tempo to take water 1. So yeah, I think the line Zoras took is pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I like Zoras's line. Yeah, because he wasn't going to win B5 without increasing shipping. So yeah, I like his line, especially now because he might win this race to water 1 if Dwarves wants to take coins, right? Like he's gonna get some huge compensation, right? He's gonna get coins or he's gonna get water 1 with this trading post, whereas he wouldn't have gotten that otherwise. So I do like the trading post play there. I think if you're Zoras, you're hoping to get water 1. You're hoping Dwarves take coins here because you're very far behind in points, and you could really use it. I like this double dig here.
Ed, what do you think about taking this this red over in the west as opposed to locking up the brown in the center?
I mean, I certainly prefer the brown in the center, for sure. Oh, interesting. And he maybe inadvertently. Oh, I don't know if inadvertently. Maybe he was going to mess with Dwarves a little bit here. Oh, and Zoras just takes the coins and just ignores water 1. That I think is definitely wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm sure someone in the Twitch chat's yelling at me. Probably Rainior, probably Ryan telling me that water 1's not important, but I think water 1's unbelievably important for Zoras here. It can be like with his resources and the way that the game is going to play out, like, and the fact that he's going to get 7 coins from Earth and all this kind of stuff. Like, he probably should be building 4 trading posts the next round, and then into a whole bunch of dwellings. Like that's how he's going to catch up. That was the whole point of Darklings being strong. And the fact of the matter is that I'm not convinced Swarmlings is taking coins here anyway. Like maybe they're taking workers. Maybe they are taking coins, but maybe they're taking workers. You don't know. I think in a lot of lines they should take workers. Man, I mean, just letting maybe Dwarves don't want water 1. I don't know. I just think it's a huge mistake.
Dwarves had already shown that they more wanted that single spade than they wanted water 1. So maybe that was Zoras's read that he could afford to wait Zoras really isn't going to be priest short, so like upgrading this round for Water 1 like isn't a huge deal for him. He's got 4 priests now. It seems like he'll be doing okay on his priest needs for the next round or two. So maybe he decided that just leaving that trading post there, getting 2 coins and a power income, and hoping to like I was talking about, being slightly greedy and hoping to like take that line, like that was his way back into the game. Is maybe getting Water 1 right now doesn't win him the game anyways, but maybe being greedy and trying to take it, wait till next turn to take it, is what gets him back into the game.
I could maybe see that. I just think it's so important for him. Like, it not only is making the temple here an extra 2 priest income, which is an extra 4 points. Like, the temple for Darklings is it's not just an economic building, it's like a scoring building, right? And Water 1 is going to be 12 to 15 points for him. Like, how is he going to make up those 20 points or 19 points? Um, you certainly don't do it by getting an extra 3 coins, right? Coin power action, don't get me wrong, by far the strongest power action, extremely important, should almost always be your first priority. But in this case, I think Water 1 just has to be his first priority with how the game's going, or I just don't see him being able to convert enough of this economy into points.
I mean, so the thing is, and this is like, I've been a big advocate for Air One, just like in general. I think Air One's better than people give it credit for. Zoras is planning to build 3 trading posts next round, right? That would be pretty reasonable. He could maybe squeeze out a 4th, but 3 trading posts is going to be 9 points from Water 1 and 6 points from Air 1. So yeah, like obviously 9 points is better, but being able to sit on a trading post and get the extra coin income, being able to take the coins power action, get 3 extra coins there, it's possible that makes up the gap between Water 1 and Air 1. Maybe it doesn't make up the gap between nothing and Water 1, but it makes up the gap between Air 1 and Water 1.
Yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough. I can, if you're saying something, I can definitely listen to it. And it looks like, regardless of his play here, he is not going to be punished. It looks like he's got Water 1 if he wants it, and it looks like he's still not going to prioritize it over grabbing this. And I think Fakir should certainly have grabbed this little spot for themselves, but it just makes it so much easier to compete on network if you're grabbing this spot, grabbing this other center yellow as well. It's just a lot left on the table by CeePhi here.
Yeah, I think, and the thing that's like that I'm looking at for him as well is CeePhi is still sitting on 8 workers. So he had enough workers to like do a hard dig this round. You get 2 points for doing a dig this round. So I think he still could have built in the places he built. It was just kind of the ordering where I think he should have
Yes.
locked up some of the territory that Zoras was contesting first, and then he still could have built on that red that he ended up building on. Just do it later because no one's likely contesting that for a little while. So yeah, so I think CeePhi is he's starting to run out of the little steam here. He doesn't have as many free flights anymore, and is going to start to need to he's going to need to build a town to increase his range before he can start to fly again a bunch. But by the time that happens, a couple of his yellows might be taken by the Darklings. So this feels like it's it was just hanging on the edge of like how good this Fakir's game is going to be, and it feels like it might be tipping towards the bad side where he's just going to start getting his yellows eaten up and not have as many ways to earn points as he needs. He still hasn't gotten a neighbor up, for a town in the north. There's a chance Swarmlings caught off his town in the west. Darklings have cut him off in the center, so it does just feel like this. The starting locations that he chose are kind of coming back to bite him, where like he might have tried to do too
Yes.
much and isn't going to end up being able to do any of the things that he was trying to do.
Yeah, Fakir's is just breaking my heart here a little bit with some of these choices. I think Istari here with the worker power action is interesting. It indicates some jumps that he's going to want to do. I think Zoras here has, if production can throw up the coordinates again here just quickly. I think if I'm Zoras, I'm double digging F3. I am single digging E4, setting up a beautiful center town there. And then using my last 2 workers to upgrade my temple for Water 1. If I can do all of that, I get to go into the next round with a ton of coins, a ton of worker income, Water 1, 3 priests. I dug 3 times here. All of a sudden, I'm like caught up. Like, this is a dream. he's going to get water 1. He got the coins action. Maybe you're right. Maybe Zoras the whole time was just like, yeah, I could go for water 1, but I need everything because I'm so far behind because I had such a bad start. Because if he can accomplish all of this, I mean, holy moly,
This is looking great.
This is a good round. Like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Especially if he can lock up that 4 spot in the center. I mean, which it looks like he can, because how is anyone going to beat him there? And we have Claybo here, and I don't like some of what Claybo did, primarily because I think that the worker towns were more valuable for him. Like if you look at what Claybo has going for him right now, take him down 2 spots on each of the cults, take 2 points away from him, and give him 4 more workers. He's got 11 workers. Prioritize the worker action earlier on. At the very beginning when we said, is he going to take workers or coins? He had the opportunity to take workers. Dwarves just took it. All of a sudden he has 13 workers. And enough coins to upgrade digging twice, right? It's like, I mean, Claybo, that was an infinity amount of points to score for, and as Logus says, right? There's no better way for Swarmlings to score, and he gets to put down everything. So I really wish Claybo had seen that line, and tell me if I'm wrong here, because that would have been a wonderful little game plan.
The problem that I'm seeing, though, if he chose to go for that line, is he's going to run out of spots to dig, honestly. With where his dwellings are right now, in order to have new spots to dig on, he's eventually going to have to like build a dwelling, and building a dwelling takes up 2 workers and 3 coins, which he might not have. And so it's actually at the point for him where it's just you can just dig spaces for the sake of turning a worker into 2 points, but that's nowhere near as good as if you're able to put them in meaningful places. And yeah, I think Claybo, like if he had just like 6 more workers, let's say, just would have run out of meaningful places to put those digs without building a dwelling. And if you're building a dwelling, you're giving up workers anyways.
No, fair enough. I mean, maybe that wasn't the best line then. Maybe I just am too attached to this like beautiful idea of digging. Like I think he could have dug 11 times, right?
Yeah.
He could have got up to 15 workers in some lines here. And man, that's huge. That's 22 points off the track. Like, and for maybe you just have 4 spots. Swarmlings don't need that many spots. He doesn't even have Earth 1, right? Like it's not as detrimental to him. I mean, like, take away those cult steps. So, lose a bunch on the cults, maybe lose 2 points from the 8, going from 8 to 7 on the towns, but gain, hypothetically, 18 to 22 points in digs this round. It's really compelling.
Yeah. And a thing I forgot about as well is that he does have his landscape. So he doesn't have to build a dwelling to expand his reach for the spots that he's digging. So that is pretty compelling. Yeah, I think I definitely would have liked that. Although, I mean, this cult fight is pretty interesting, and I don't think he saw, like, for example, Fakir's this round threw a priest to air,
Yes.
which is something I don't think that the Stormlings saw. I think they were thinking that taking those 2 extra cult steps in air was going to be huge to, like, was going to swing them from second to first on that cult, and that's, a dig that gets them an extra dig next round, that gets them, extra 4 points or so. So I think they're seeing these cult races as really important, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. They're still they still have the ability to take air 3 to lock up air over Fakirs, and aside from that, they're in great shape to win either water or fire or both. And having those 2 extra cult steps is like, on fire, having 2 extra cult steps is the difference between being in second and tied for last.
For sure.
It got him a bunch of power along the way. I think I'm still a fan of the cult step towns.
Okay.
I think the cult races are going to be really important, because I think it's actually kind of hard to tell who your closest competitor is here. Sometimes in a game, you can choose to give up on a cult race and like just let someone else have that cult, because the amount of points that you gain on them in particular doesn't matter, right? Taking first to someone else's second is like an 8-point swing if you reverse that, right? It's an 8-point swing like between the two of you. But if you're not competing with that person, sometimes you're okay just saying, okay, fine, you have first. It's not worth 4 points to me to pass you because the person I believe is in second is someone else. But in this case, I think it's actually kind of difficult to tell who's in second. Like, the dwarves are doing really well, but the darklings had a big comeback this round. So maybe Claybo just said, look, I want to beat everyone on cults. Like, I don't know who is in second right now, so I don't feel comfortable ceding the cults to anyone. And I need to gain points on everyone by advancing in the cults.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, if we just look at what's happening here, actually, as much as I love Zoras's play here and like his plan, I mean, he did exactly what I wanted him to do. I don't like how he rushed it. He had 3 digs and 2 dwellings to pass. Like he turned what could have been 5 turns into 2 turns, and I think he misjudged it, because if he's right after, in terms of like cadence, he's right after dwarves here, and dwarves have the trading post bonus, and it is like he needs every point he can possibly get here. So I mean, if he had just slowed down a little bit here, he just gets it. He gets to choose, he gets it no matter what, because no one's threatening his hexes, even if he can't put down a dwelling because of like being slow with it or something like that. Or maybe if you want to just do the double dig all at once to make sure he got the digs in the dig round, and turned it to dig, dig, double dig, dwelling, and just even if he had to waste putting down a dwelling to secure that trading post bonus, I think that was certainly the play here. And I think something that Zoras would normally have done if maybe if this wasn't a tournament. I don't know what you think there.
Uh, I'm just going to keep providing the counter argument here just because it's fun.
Yeah,
So
let's do it.
like I think that I've been trying to like improve about my own game recently is realizing when a bonus tile can give you more points from the resources that you get as opposed to just the points that are printed on the tile. So yeah, that trading post tile has a worker and what's probably going to be 8 points printed on it. But is there a chance that taking 7 coins here gives Zoras more than 8 points in the long run? Possible that 7 coins is worth, more than 8 points more than a worker. I'm not sure if it is. It's probably not. But with there's probably going to be a network fight that's happening here with dwarves, right? They're probably going to be fighting dwarves in network, and a network swing. Being able to build a single extra dwelling or 2 extra dwellings, can be massive, right? In the implications of network and points there. Also, round 6 is a dwelling round. We even have Rainior in chat hoping for a 4-town game. So I think there is a world where taking 7 coins helps Zoras to get more than 8 points that he would get from that bonus tile. But point is moot. He gets the bonus tile anyways if he wants it.
The point is moot. He's yeah, and I mean, God, do I ever like the way that Zoras has turned this around? I hate Istari's game plan this round. I'm sorry to say it, and maybe we can chat about it a little bit more. It's really this is the first time I've ever casted something like this. It's hard to stay on point with every single player and like really give your perspective, because I'm watching Istari play and being like, we got to talk about this because like I hate what he's done here. And we do see Zoras go ahead and take this trading post bonus. When you said, and sorry, for me, it's hard for me to look at Twitch chat as well, but is Rainier saying that Darklings, it must be Darklings, he's saying is a 4-town game? It's really interesting.
I don't think 4 towns is going to be practical in any way with just how few structures Zoras has out right now. Mainly that it might be possible, but this is one of those times where I don't think going for 4 towns is going to be right, even if it was theoretically possible. I even think going for 3 towns is going to be harder than it could be, because Zoras just doesn't have the footprint available right now. Like he wants a bridge town. He needs a bridge if he wants to complete a sanctuary town up there. And then 2 of his potential town spots only have 1 and 2 structures in them. So he just he has so much to build.
I do think 3 towns is I think it's pretty trivial to do 3 towns, because he's gonna have so many digs. He's got three, and he gets the 7 coins right here, right? So I think for sure he's got 3 towns here, and he hasn't scored a town yet. and he's already passed Fakirs and dwarves in scoring. I think dwarves really fumbled a little bit in this round. I'd be interested. Did you have like a dwarves game plan in mind coming into this round?
We did some tunnels. I'll be honest, this is kind of where my game plan for dwarves stopped. Like, it's a spade round. They're not going to be able to abuse spades in any way. So I think their goal of like just spreading out a few dwellings, waiting for the trading post next round is good. But like you point out, securing water one was just probably the play. It's probably just going to be
Yeah.
more
Oh yeah.
points, and it denies a bunch of points to darklings. So I think that's the big
Yep.
flaw in the round 4 plan, was just not locking up water one earlier.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, having water one going into this round just makes it so different. Also, I mean, we once again see Claybo, obviously consummate expert, like knows how to play the game. He put up he put down kind of exactly what we were expecting him to do. I think me and you, Eric, disagreed necessarily on how he was going to do it. And I do think he missed out on prioritizing taking that worker power action, and I do think he should have taken those different towns. But he does get up to 87 here. That's, he's leading 2 cults. Um, he's got another town incoming. Do we see paths to Zoras overtaking him here, or Istari? I know Istari was our early round favorite. I think Fakirs have maybe just played too inefficient of a game to really be threatening here. What's your assessment here in this coming into this 5th round, into this what should be an extremely high scoring round, right? With these trading posts.
Yeah, I think you're spot on that missing out on water one is going to end up really costing Istari. Everyone else gained a decent amount of ground on him. Well, the Stormlings and Darklings, like Darklings gained ground and Stormlings pulled away with the amount of digs they were able to do. And Istari just, Dwarf's point engine is good, but it's not that good in round 4 yet. And so not having water one is going to really cost him. He's got what, 19 coins, 6 power, and 10 workers, and just isn't going to have the 6-point trading post that everyone else does. So I think everyone
Yeah.
else is going to start to pull away. He'll have round 6, of course, to start coming back when he's doing 8-point tunnels. But yeah, I think that's going to be a huge detriment to Istari here. Plus the fact that the Stormlings have gone so aggressively on the cults. The Darklings are like, right there on a couple of the cults. The Vakirs even went aggressively on air. Like, this plan we had for the Dwarves of like aggressively locking up 2 or 3 cults doesn't seem to be as, on lock anymore. So yeah, they're going to get some points, but
right, it comes back to this temple for water one, and then priest to water, like, and then you're on the 8th spot. Then you're winning earth and water, like almost no matter what. You've got the 2 priest income. Maybe you have less dwellings down, that's for sure, but you've got water one. I think, oh god, it sucks to see such a flawless plan, and then like that one blunder of just building that trading post instead of that temple, I think was just so big. Like, remember we said like maybe it was a small, was it a small mistake or a big mistake? It's looking more and more to me like it was a really big mistake.
yeah, I agree. And it looks like Istari's trying to make up that points gap by going for another town here. Took the double dig on that blue in the southeast. What's your take on like getting a 3rd town with dwarves?
Can't
Just in general.
don't think it's worth it. I don't think I've ever played a 3-town dwarf game in my life. I'm relatively new to Terra Mystica compared to some other longer term players, but I mean, just if we do the math on it, like how many, I don't think it's possibly good. And I think if he was potentially going down this path, I mean, buying a priest here and upgrading both of his, because he's not getting these like really powerful trading post upgrades anymore. Upgrade your digging, then, right? And go grab a priest. You have so many resources. Turn those resources into points. You just spent 6 power on something that gives you no points, right? And upgrading digging, advancing digging once is almost a town. It's 6 points, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's like not to belittle Astari at all, but I think that's like a trap some people fall into, right? Is when you're learning Terra Mystica, like when I teach people the game, right, a common thing I tell them is like, yeah, just like go for 2 towns, right? And then a common way to get better is you start seeing players better than you forming 3 towns, and so that's what you start going for. And towns are like such a key thing, right? They happen every game. Like it feels like getting more of them is usually better. Like in an average game, I'd say like you can reasonably correlate like the number of towns you get with the number of points you get. Like, so
Yes.
it just feels like getting more towns is better. But there's a few like situations, and this is definitely one of them. Like when you're playing dwarves, you get Istari spent 2 spades on that single spot. If he just spent he could have spent 2 extra workers. He could have put one of those spades across a tunnel and then turned 2 workers into 4 points. Um, and so just finding ways like that, and like you said, advancing digging is almost as many points as you're going to get for a town anyways. So
Yeah.
you just do that. You're probably putting more resources into forming this town than you would if you just advanced digging twice. And that's advancing digging twice worth more points than the best town there is.
Then the best town
So
there is.
it's one of those things where it's like, it sounds obvious when you say it, but if you like just take a step back and look at like how many
Yeah.
resources are you putting to getting how many points, uh, some of these lines, just be made a lot more efficient. This happens a lot in the late round of games where you're trying to figure out is building this temple worth it, and it often seems like it must be worth it to like build a temple and take a 3-step favor tile to pass someone on a cult. And so you step back and you realize, wait, I passed someone, I gained 2 points, and I spent more than 2 points worth of resources to do that. So yeah, so I think this is like a case where it's like it's not quite obvious. Like it feels like going for a third town has to be good, but I think, yeah, I agree that dwarves probably had a better way to use the resources here.
Couldn't agree more. Like literally couldn't agree more. It feels like Astari kind of lost the thread of what he was trying to do, right? When he took that 2 cult town, you need to prioritize that priest income. The thing is here, so Swarmlings has these problems with these late trading post rounds, and it's actually maybe bit of an overblown problem to some people. It's not that big of a problem because if you're playing with, it depends on which factions you're playing against and all that kind of stuff, but not every faction can, reliably do what Zoras is about to do here and put down 4 trading posts in this trading post round. Um, but Swarmlings only has the opportunity to really put down 1 and perhaps 2, depending on how the game's going. So Zoras is going to not catch him in points here, but it's going to make up a substantial amount of ground in this round 5 trading post round, as well as remember, Swarmlings doesn't have Earth 1. So Zoras is also going to make up a huge amount of ground in the next round as well, when he's putting down a ton of dwellings. So Claybo, I wonder if his lead is big enough, and I would hazard a guess that it is not. What do you say to that, Eric?
I don't think it is. Zoras also has the trading post points tile, and it just doesn't look like the Stormlings have enough actions left to stall for that. Like
I
the
was thinking
Stormlings are
workers
immediately
at
after
priest.
Darklings, but Darklings have so many resources, 3 priests. Feels like Darklings can stall them out and prevent them from getting that tile. So yeah, Zoras is going to build at least 2 more trading posts. There's even like a world where he upgrades a temple, like takes a town
Fire 2.
tile,
Fire 2,
fire 2,
Fire 2, Air 1 maybe,
um,
depending on
then
his game plan. Like, yeah,
takes a town tile that gives him enough resources to build another trading post. Like I wouldn't say that's easy, but it might not be, without looking too closely. So yeah, so I think Zoras is gonna if not catch, come very close to catching Claybo by the end of this round. When you include the 8 points he's going to get from passing, um, and a potential town. And Claybo's only got 1 more town coming. Zoras still has 3. We're saying 3 will be very achievable.
yeah,
So yeah,
and it will
I
be.
and then if Zoras is taking fire 2, which I think he definitely will, now he's challenging Claybo on the fire cult. Zoras is not doing as bad on cults as he could have been. He'll probably have at least 2nd on fire, at least 2nd on earth, at least 3rd on water. That's 10 cult points right there. That's not bad. He's looking
That's
to
enough.
compete. Yeah, he's looking
In
to
network.
compete on network.
I
He's
mean,
doing better than the peers for sure.
he should have a
Um,
safe 2nd in network. I don't think it would be close. I don't think it's possible. For
and then,
Fakir
like you
with
pointed out,
how
on 6, like he's gonna be just pulling even more into
smashing.
the lead with um with getting essentially 6 points a dwelling, right? He'll get 2 points every time he uses a priest, and then 2 points for Earth 1 and 2 points for the scoring bonus. So yeah, I think this is Zoras' game now. Claybo's played a pretty good game, but I think I'll point this out. I think Claybo played a game that was a little bit too much, like it was too likely that he was going to get a second place with this game plan. So in last
Way
round,
too likely.
we didn't talk about this in last round, but he built a bridge up there onto the A row in the north um, to block the Fakirs. I'm pretty sure that was intent, was to block the Fakirs town, right? The Fakirs wanted that brown hex to form a town, and Claybo chose to use one of his digs on that brown to block him. But why did he need that bridge, right? He just spent 3 power on a bridge that could have been,
for no
that 3
reason.
power could have been converted into a worker, and that worker could have been another 2 points for him, or could
Another
have
dig.
been, or could have been some other resource that he wanted it to be. So that was an example of a play where he like really shut down. He also, we haven't talked about this yet, in the west, dug that brown to a black.
Yeah, away from Fakirs as well.
Away from the Fakirs. So he's messing with the Fakirs. It was like messing with the Fakirs a bunch this game. It's almost like, at what's the point? We didn't, we were assessing this and thinking that Fakirs were not the strongest player in the game. So I was talking about like trying to make that call about who's in second place and like seeding things to them, versus other players. It feels like Claybo made the call that he wanted to mess with Fakirs and wanted to like take Fakirs out of the game, but I don't think Fakirs were in second place. I think it was Zoras who was like his biggest, Claybo's biggest threat.
For sure.
And so it feels like this is a line that's going to get Claybo a very safe second, but might not have the edge to like beat out Zoras for first.
I mean, I'm concerned now that like if you get into the meta of this tournament, right? Like some of the best second places move forward, and the best second places are by how close you are to first, right? Your percentage to first. I wonder if any of that starts to come in. It's hard for Swarmlings to like really mess with Zoras, but I mean, maybe it's almost impossible for him to mess with Zoras. But I mean, Zoras is going by a lot. It looks like, and it makes me nervous to say stuff like that because we're on stream, and there's everyone's in the chat, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm not very good all the time at identifying necessarily like who's in the right places, but I mean, it certainly looks like Zoras is going to win by a lot here. And it's funny because I think he had one of the worst possible starts he could have had.
It started with
I
a
think he had
temple and a dwelling. That's as bad as it gets for Darklings.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a priest to fire for 2 extra workers, which was nice, but this was a potentially brutal start for Zoras, and it really was that shipping. The fact that he was able to get that temp shipping and that Fakirs didn't lock up the center, I think that's what's letting Zoras back into that. Is it's going to allow him to get his third town. It's going to allow him to connect and do a whole bunch of stuff that he maybe shouldn't have been able to do if Fakirs had just blocked him.
Oh, I mean, it's just night and day. I mean, but that's part of the game, right? Like knowing the Fakirs, I don't know. And Fakir's not even starting in the middle. It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. I'd be interested to see here if Claybo prioritizes taking a priest, by the way, and trying to stall out Zoras for this TP passing tile. I think it's extremely important for him to do so. And in fact, I think Zoras should maybe take a priest here, just to make sure that it doesn't happen for Claybo, because Claybo is really the only. I think he's the only threat in this game. I think Istari is falling too far behind here. Would you have the same assessment? Like I just think the round 4 and 5 for Istari were just far too weak.
Istari, like we've talked about, just slip this third town. I think is going to end up being a mistake, and just in terms of potential number of points. And then CeePhi just he's going to get his town now, so that's good. But getting blocked at a couple places by the Swarmlings, like like we talked about, he was playing a little too conservatively in the first place. Like
not efficiently enough.
This is getting a little punished. There's some spaces that he could have locked up earlier if he had, not passed so early, and that allowed the Swarmlings the chance to, mess with him. Sometimes locking up those spaces is important. Not like taking those actions is important to lock up the spaces you need, not just to get down dwellings for the sake of income, but also just to build your towns. So I think CeePhi is just gonna end up a little too far behind. He's gonna get a great round 6. He'll probably take a range town here and be able to get down like 4 or 5 different dwellings with
Four or
flights.
five. 4 or
Um,
5 for sure. I think he'll score a lot of points in this last round for sure. Like he'll shoot up.
He's going to run out of priests is part of the problem. He's only got 2 priest income right now and 1 priest in the bag. Probably can take another one with power action or something at some point. But so CeePhi will end up having an okay game, but it's he's not doing well enough on network, not doing well enough on cults to make up for that. Doesn't have a massive amount of town points coming or anything. Whereas Zoras kind of has everything. He's got good cult points. He's going to do really well on network. He's still got 3 towns coming. He's going to pass for 8 points this round. Still has another trading post to build this round, and is going to score 1 million points with dwellings next round. So I think it's a little like you're watching this, right? Like for a newer player to Terra Mystica, right? Like maybe you're looking at this like, wait, Zoras is 25 points behind. Like, how's that possible? That he's in so far in the lead, but it's kind of just the nature of Darklings and Swarmlings. I think Swarmlings are a faction that want to earn their points at like kind of a steady burn throughout the game, right? They'd like to take Water 1 and Air 1 early and just be earning, like 5 to 10 points a turn. If they can get like 1 or 2 buildings from the track, their Water 1 points, their Air 1 points, get some points from a bonus tile, advance their digging when a convenient, their shipping, right? Just they want to just be getting this slow burn of points, and so they usually jump out to an early lead. Whereas Darklings, they can jump out to an early lead for sure, but I think they tend to work well when when they snowball, right? Once they get their temples going, once they get their economy going, then in the later rounds they're really able to take advantage and just use their raw priest production to be earning 6 points more a turn than everyone else on top of whatever they're doing with their economy.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. And it looks like Zoras is not going for the 4-town route. That's for sure. Obviously, if he was going for a 4-town route here, he'd be prioritizing Fire 2, and I think it would have been pretty cool to actually see Fire 2 here into this worker town, into another trading post even. But given that Dwarves hasn't given him a neighbor yet, maybe not. And there's other reasons for him not to do it. One of the things that I really think is a mistake, though, is Zoras not prioritizing taking that priest power action. Claybo left it for a long, long time, and I think it's very likely now that Claybo is able to outstall Zoras.
Claybo's done a great job stalling here. The question is whether at some point stalling is going to be pretty costly. Like if he just has to use all of these resources on things that he doesn't want. That's another one of those things where I was talking about with like, is there ever a time when getting a bonus tile that doesn't have points printed on it is better than like stalling for the bonus tile that does have points printed? Like, Claybo can dig with workers, but does he want to? Or would he just rather have those workers as workers?
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
So we'll see how
you very well could be right. Yeah, you very well could be right. I guess a part of it is going to depend on how much Zoras stalls as well, potentially.
Yeah, Zoras still has a couple priests, so he can pretty easily stall. But he'd love to like wait till next turn to build his dwellings, because he gets more points for him. So we'll see. And we've got.
I think if I was, go ahead.
We've got Rainier pointing out in chat. This was my prediction from earlier. That Zoras, it doesn't look like he's going to go for even 3 towns at this point. Like it's just a little bit awkward where he needs like enough dwellings to connect between the east and the west that he's going to have 2 easy towns and then half of 2 towns somewhere else is what it looks like it's going to happen. He's going to have these couple lone dwellings stranded in the south. He's going to have a sanctuary stranded up in the northwest, but then he'll very easily get 2 towns in the center and in the east. So at this point I'd say 3 towns is a bit of a stretch, but he's still doing very well on points, and so I'm not worried about calling him in the lead right now.
No, I think it's pretty clear here. And I think if I was Zoras here, I would put down a dwelling. I would certainly put down a dwelling here, just because it does help you with that network, and I think that's just more important than getting that extra 2 points. There's an argument to be made to even put down two dwellings here. I think I wouldn't. But just as a just as something to think about. And again, Istari here, just look at where he is at points compared to where he was at the end of round 3. Like just not enough movement, not enough of what was possible for dwarves in this game. And um, he's already converted 2 of his towns, right? So he doesn't have a crazy amount of points coming. He's going to get a lot of jumps and he's going to get a lot of dwellings, and he will have a fantastic round 6. But it's not going to be this like boon of a round 6 where, like for instance, he doesn't have down his stronghold. That was a totally feasible line to get down his stronghold earlier, so that he could make a million jumps here. He's not gonna have that open to him. And I think we're going to see here Claybo stalling out. I think for sure it's worth stalling for this trading post, because I don't know if he can get 8 points in a better way here. If he waits
I
as
agree with
Zoras,
that.
yeah, I think it's for sure the right move.
Going back to what you said about the the amount of points people had in round 3, I think in round 3 we saw Zoras at like 27 points or something. We were saying he was really struggling for points, and the dwarves were looking solid. They were at like 45 or somewhere in that range. They looked like they were crushing, but it's really over the course of 2 rounds, I think Astari's earned less than 20 points, while Zoras has made up 60 or so.
Mhm.
And so and I do really think it comes back to that Temple for Water one that you talked about. It's just had so many cascading effects where it let
Yes.
the Darklings get Water 1. It gave them 1 fewer cult spade. It gave them less priest income to compete on the cults. It was a whole cascading effect of that decision, and I think he's paying the price now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, he could have it all, right? I mean, he might be on the 8th spot of air as well, if he took that line, because that 1 extra priest income is just so substantial, so substantial. Interested to see here if Zoras puts out another dwelling. I mean, obviously he can't outweight Claybo anymore, but just from like a strategy point of view, if he thinks it's more important to put the dwelling down now to get win that network or not. Do you have an opinion on that? These are some of like the little things that maybe aren't that interesting to the casual viewer. I think we have mostly hardcore viewers, but for sure, this like makes a huge difference in winning a game or coming second. A lot of times is making a decision like this. Do you put the dwelling down here or not? And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, Eric.
Yeah, I think I would. And the reason I would, I'm paying more attention to the overall game than specifically the
Yeah.
Darklings game plan, so I haven't calculated it out exactly. But I think there's a reasonable chance that Zoras wants to build his stronghold next round. And I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out. So it's a dwelling round. Uh, the Darklings landscape has the prerequisite of a stronghold. It counts as a dwelling, and a dwelling is going to be 4 points. So it turns up, the stronghold is at least 4 points, right? Like it lets you turn into 6 points, but when we put down your landscape instead of 2 points, it lets him get out. That landscape is an extra structure then, which is probably going to be fighting dwarves on network. I expect it to be a pretty close race.
Mhm.
And yes, and then with your stronghold, you're able to convert 3 workers to 3 priests, which is a gain of 5 points, right? If you're able to fully do that and use those priests to dig. So I think Zoras should be thinking about building a stronghold next round. And actually, if he builds a stronghold, actually no, there's not a good place to build a stronghold where he could help it form a town. But yeah, so I don't know. I think building a stronghold is something reasonable, and in that case, he wants just as much stuff down now because he's going to need workers next round. So I don't think he should worry about like running out of dwellings to build next round because he should have plenty of stuff to do for points.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a mistake to not build that dwelling, but I think I would have and then tried to build a stronghold, and then maybe that would have been wrong. And Twitch chat can tell me that, but
So funny enough, before you said that, my actual plan for Zoras in this round involved Fire 2. So Fire 2, a temple, building another trading post, and then building the stronghold in the last round as well. because building that stronghold in the last round gives you the 3 power to get that extra. You can build a town then down in the south, because dwarves is going to come make you a neighbor, and then you can do a stronghold and 3 dwelling town there. And the stronghold really, it looks expensive, right? It's a 4 workers and 6 coins. The way that I think about that in this dwelling round here, and in the fact that you're getting down this extra landscape that is a free building, because you're going to have the dig no matter what. Like the digs are not the problem for Darklings, and especially after you build the stronghold, it's really only a 3 worker 4 coin building. And the reality is, if we really look at the reality, I would imagine Dwarves finds a way to get down all 5 of their dwellings, right? So they're going to be at 3. And so if we don't get the stronghold down, we can't get to 3 anyway. We're always going to be stronghold, temple, and the landscape. And so we're never going to lose second place in network to Fakirs. I just don't think they're going to get down enough, and we're certainly not losing it to Swarmlings, right? So is there really a downside to in terms of network to building the stronghold? I just don't think so. So that's why I would have taken the Fire 2 route with Zoras' line here and taken the worker, and maybe not build it, maybe not. No, I would have done the trading post because you have the trading post passing bonus as well. Maybe that leaves you a little bit too worker short. Hard to say, but because obviously we're not calculating this off the top of our heads, but definitely
Yeah,
something to consider.
I think it certainly would have been interesting, especially like you said, if he took a line that enabled him to get that third town with it. The problem for him right now is that he has all of his trading posts out, so he doesn't have the ability to build his stronghold in the south very easily, right? He'll need to free up a trading post before he can build one there and then upgrade it to a stronghold. So like he had some lines he could have taken to make that possible, but I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see if he builds a stronghold here, because I mean, what else is he doing? He wants to build 4 dwellings. He needs to advance his shipping once or twice. So he it seems like he'll have some leftover stuff. Maybe he'll use that stuff to like build a temple for Fire 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like I'm at least seeing that it doesn't seem like it would be crazy to think that he could build a stronghold and get away with it.
Yeah.
But let's see what's going on with Swarmlings. I mean, this is going to be one of the more interesting formations of buildings I've ever seen in a Terra Mystica game. This like double bridge like circle they've got going up here in the north. I really hope Claybo like builds that all the way around. I'd love to see that circular town.
Oh, he's gonna do it. He's doing it for the viewers, though. He's doing it for the fantasy viewers. Like, how many
How many
extra
fantasy
points is
points
that?
do you get for like forming a 2-bridge town should be some amount of points.
Well, he's encapsulated. He's got the full wrap on Fakirs here.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really cool.
yeah, and
So
so
he's got another town coming for sure. But he's very, very worker short. That's his problem right now. Is he, would love to build a couple dwellings. He needs to build a temple in order to free up another trading post for himself to build. That temple's probably going to Fire 2, so that he can get this last town. But he's only got 5 workers, and Istari just took the 2 worker power action. So he might have to be doing some pricey conversions of a priest to a worker or power to workers directly. Because Claybo needs a decent amount of workers for his plan of building a temple and completing the town.
yes, I agree. I think I don't see. I know we're in round 6 here, so there's a lot less ambiguity than there was before. But this just looks like Darklings are going to beat Swirlings by 20 or 30 points, and then maybe there's another 20. I don't know. Is Fakir's 20 points behind Swarmlings? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. Fakir's is maybe closer to Swarmlings than I thought.
Fakirs are going to make up. I mean, Fakirs still have 3 priests. They're going to turn those into 8 points a piece. That's 24 points they have coming just from building 3 dwellings. And let's see, they have 1, 2, 3 spots they can flight to, and 3 dwellings left. Yeah, so Fakirs add 24 points to that. Plus maybe they build an extra trading post or something. Yeah, Fakirs are gonna They're gonna probably crack 100 the main round here. Fakirs should take third on network. It looks like it doesn't seem like they're gonna be able to compete with dwarves and darklings. Fakirs are
No
gonna do
chance.
okay on
Yeah.
cults. Fakirs are gonna do better than expected on cults with that first place and probably a third place. So yeah, Fakirs are gonna probably end around 120 or so. They're having like a respectable game, but yeah, they just got cut off too many times and had to waste too many resources, like doing that hard
I
dig in the
I think
west. And
just playing too inefficiently too. Like passing too early is what I mean. I don't mean like he was necessarily making like super big blunders or anything like that, right? Like I didn't see any like massive blunders that he made, other than maybe not taking that center or maybe the starting positions. But really, what it was is that he just playing like slightly inefficient moves, like compounded turn, and then falling further behind his competitors, right? I think dwarves is potentially threatening for second place. Is that crazy to say? Maybe that's crazy to say. Maybe it's just. I mean, they're
have a
going to
lot of
score a lot of
resources,
points.
but it is going to be, and they have a lot of available tunnels. But like you pointed out, they didn't build their stronghold uh, at any point earlier, so they're going to they're in this interesting dilemma where like it's hard to build a stronghold now because it just takes 6 coins and 4 workers, and you might as well just use those workers like on the more expensive tunnels. Um, but it is going to be pretty expensive to be spending. It's 3 workers every time you want to do this tunnel, like two for the tunnel and 1 for the dwelling. So if he wants to get down all 5 of his dwellings, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tunnels available, but that takes 15 workers. And he's only got 11. So
Yes, and 12 with
um,
power. So he's only getting.
yeah.
He's only. So I mean, and I think this is just going to highlight exactly what we said here. What's he going to do? Is he going to spend any time building this town down here in the south? There's just no way. Makes no sense. I think he's probably realizing that now, right? Um, I mean, maybe he single digs green, but he doesn't have fire two either. So like, I just it's just a disaster to spend stuff on anything other than jumping right now, which makes that double dig of blue really poor. And unfortunately, like a secondary blunder after that water one mishap, I think.
Yeah. Um,
It's
yeah.
funny if, if we look at CeePhi and Istari's game, I see them as like so different because CeePhi I just think made these slightly inefficient, moves kind of turn after turn after turn and like slowly wore himself down by not, building enough and prioritizing the economy enough. And Istari played like this flawless round 1 to 3, like unbelievably so good. Like he was in such a great spot and then just like seemingly lost the thread in rounds 4, 5, and 6. So I think that's kind of the difference here in terms of where those guys are going to end up versus where we're going to end up with the Darklings and the Swarmlings here.
And we see Darklings, they're blocking a gray space from the dwarves. The interesting thing for dwarves here, like normally that would be catastrophic to get one of your spaces that you're going to tunnel to stolen. But I think dwarves actually have like more spots than they had more spots than they did like available
Oh
tunnels to do, right? Like
no, no,
they actually
no,
had 6.
Eric. Sorry to interrupt you. They're not connected anymore.
Oh, oh no. Okay, I missed
Oh
that.
no. Yeah, and Darklings is
Oh,
doing it because he's gonna only get to 4 structures and dwarves could get to 5. Could get to 3, sorry. So Darklings is gonna win
I wasn't
network.
even. We had back in round 2. We said, "All right, doors are going to connect. It'll be fine." I completely
No
forgot that was
problem.
still up in the air.
Oh my
So
goodness.
dwarves left those spots open for so long. It looked like they might have been denying Darklings the neighbor, that the Darklings wanted to get their third town. Right? That seemed like the plan was like, hey, don't give them a neighbor so they can't build cheap trading posts, but actually bit them because they ended up waiting too long, um, and Darklings just cut off their connection. That's yeah, clever play by Zoras. I mean, great play to just say like, all right, I'll just take network now. Um,
Just brutal. And Eric, can you hear me well there, by the way?
yeah,
And viewers, maybe in Twitch chat, I lost audio for just a quick second there, so I wanted to make sure that we're all good. Okay, good. Oh man. Anyway, just absolutely devastating for the dwarves there. I mean, I think that's tough. I mean, I don't think it really changes the tournament necessarily, but certainly hurts Claybo in a lot of ways, right? Zoras getting that extra 6 points, like that's gonna hurt his case for that best second place there. That's for sure.
And I wonder if this changes at all Zoras' ability to go for a town now. There, just like he's. I don't know if that's part of his plan with taking that spot, is that he just wanted to secure more spaces in general to try to get a town. But yeah, this is looking great for Zoras, and like we were talking about, Claybo's just he's not going to be able to earn as many points this round. He doesn't have Earth 1. He doesn't want to build a lot of dwellings. He's pretty much just got a single town coming, and that's the only thing he can really do that like net earns him points on everyone else. Whereas Zoras has 1, maybe 2 towns coming, still at least 3 more dwellings. So yeah, this is looking very good for Zoras. It's not going to be, I wouldn't say it's going to be a blowout on the Swarmlings. I mean, it should be a reasonable margin of victory, but yeah, that was pretty costly for Claybo to have dwarves like miss out on the competition for network now. I mean, is there a world? Let's actually look at this. Is there a world where Claybo now gets network points? Claybo is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, 9 structures. And the dwarves are only going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, I think there is actually a chance that it gives Claybo more points. Like,
yeah,
maybe Zoras is going to win network anyways. So he didn't actually gain himself any points by cutting off dwarves, and instead he just handed 6 network points to Claybo.
Zoras, maybe the blunder from Zoras.
Yeah.
Hard to say here.
And you're just pointing that out in chat too. Yeah, it doesn't hurt Claybo. He also gets network. So, I mean, like we said, I think neither of us are thinking that this. Like, I don't think the margin is going to be like 3 to 5 points for Zoras over Claybo, so I don't think it's going to matter in the end. But that would be a really interesting situation if cutting off the wrong opponent actually gave someone else enough points to pull ahead.
No, for sure. For sure. I mean, man, just Dwarfs just breaking my heart with that beautiful rounds 1 to 3, and just not pulling it through. It was Istari really playing the wild card spot, kind of exactly like a wild card would.
Yeah. Someone pointed out in Twitch chat earlier, didn't get to bring it up, but I think it's worth noting. Someone pointed out that like Istari as a 2-player specialist might not have just like properly understood the value of like securing Water 1 or locking up cults, because you don't have to lock up Water 1 in a 2-player game. It will always be there available for you. You don't get as many points for locking up a cult earlier, as you do because there's only one other player competing with you. So it might have just been a case where like his experience with 2-player games like made it harder for him to value like what some things that we value significantly is primarily 4-player players do.
I think that could be spot on. I mean, especially because he was just so accurate in the opening, right? Like, it was wild the way that he was doing things to like make sure he got that leech, and that feels like a 2-player specialist type of like important skill set to like make sure that you're in the right spots. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm off the board here, but it certainly seems like that. One of the other things that we'll just point out right here is just look at this. Look at Zoras. Like, look at his economy left. 5 works, 15 coins left. Just absolutely smashing people at this point. Kind of, as you mentioned a couple rounds ago, it's just he just had too much in the bank here. And I would love to see him take the 2-worker. No more 2-worker towns left. I was gonna say I would love to see him take the 2-worker town and build that stronghold. That would be cool.
Yeah. The thing I'm gonna be interested to see is how what town he takes, for example. He only has 1 priest left, and he still needs 2 more shipping. So I'm guessing he's going to be taking a priest town, advancing his shipping twice more. And he does have 2 free black spaces to place, but I mean that could get interrupted. Swarmlings could spend a worker to dig that northern black away from him. But yeah, I guess Zoras doesn't really have much of a problem. Like he has plenty of coins. there's still 2 priest towns left, so he'll be able to grab one of those to advance the shipping. But yeah, I'd say brilliant comeback by Zoras. He kind of played this exactly how he needed to steal network. This is a case, coming back to like identifying like who your strong opponents are and like how you can beat them in places. Um, you know, I'm not sure if this was like the only reason. It's probably not the only reason, but if Zoras hadn't found a way to connect, if he hadn't prioritized connection as early as he did, it's possible that the Stormlings would have even beaten Zoras on network. And maybe the
Yep.
Stormlings are getting 12 points in some crazy world on network. And so Zoras identifying early that like, wait, no, Stormlings are having a very good game. Dwarves are having a very good game. I need to fight with them on network because me winning network instead of them is a huge point swing.
Huge swing.
So he really prioritized taking that temp shipping, connecting, and that's what's like gave him this comeback. Like it's a pretty close game on points, but Zoras is going to dominate the end game points because of that decision.
Yes, I mean, yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself here. I mean, here comes a priest down. I think this is just gonna be a slam. Don't expect anything else really, and then he's gonna have kind of the perfect resources to put down this last dwelling, and maybe make a temple for Air One. Then I think is, oh no Air One left. So I don't know what he'll do with his last little bit of resources. But I don't know. This is just such a wonderful game from Zoras. Hard to say much else.
The thing we'll have to look out for, Rainier pointing this out in chat, that actually if Zoras does lose that last black hex that he needs, he has 1 undug black hex left, but 2 priests, and he needs both of those priests, to advance his shipping. So if that last black hex gets taken, either by a spiteful, I guess Stormings would have to take it. It's a pretty big deal because that pushes Zoras back into a tie with the Fakirs on network, so that's a loss of 3 points for him there. It's an extra dwelling. He doesn't get down in a dwelling round, so that's 4 points there. So that could be a 7.6 point mistake. If
Yeah.
not necessarily a mistake, but just a Claybo could spend a single worker to take away 7 points from Zoras, which could end up being significant. So let's see. Yeah, what does Claybo have left to do?
I wonder if Zoras is going to get enough. Maybe he had some leech just to, because I mean the trading post, or sorry, not the. I guess it's the ship is sailed. Never mind. I was going to say he can still build the stronghold, get his 3 priests, and then dig his landscape. But of course, you don't get the 3 priests for free. So I'm way off base here.
Yeah. Interesting. Dwarves actually. So dwarves use their bonus tile spade on this red over in the southwest area, and that's actually making it look like it's going to be a competition with Stormlings. Right? Stormlings aren't going to get that 6 network points for free. Dwarves actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 connected buildings right now.
Yep.
Stormlings have 7. They can get to 9, but dwarves can also get to 9. And Stormlings would have to spend some resources to do that. So yeah, I think at best Stormlings probably get 3 points on network, which is huge. So lots of swings going both ways on network this game. And that's why, yeah, like we've been talking about all game, like CeePhi's decisions to save his resources when he did and not build an extra building, with how incredibly tight this network race is, that's so significant. The difference between getting out an extra dwelling in a dwelling round, which is worth 4 points, and also getting one more build, having one more structure than a competitor, which gives you 3 points and plus 3 point gain on them. Like it's every last little structure in this last round is coming out to be really important.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right there. And it's funny. Does Claybo has the resources here? Does Claybo have shipping? He does. So Claybo can just dig this block here. There's nothing stopping him, right? There's nothing else he needs to do.
That's all he did. So yeah,
yeah, okay.
Good play there. He did it. So yeah, that costs, I think Darkling's about 6 points. He could build on it. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, building on it is probably going to end up being the right play because again, it's a dwelling round, so he doesn't lose resource points by choosing to build a dwelling. And he's trying to catch up to dwarves on the network fight there. So I'm guessing building 2 more dwellings for Claybo is his best line.
Yep.
And
I mean, he
CeePhi's
loses the swag points though because he will no longer be able to build the full circular town. So whoever has him on his fantasy team should just be ashamed.
Yes. Hard to say, Claybo. You had the chance to be the hero of the people, and you didn't take it.
That's awful.
I mean, was it worth that 6 points? Probably, because I mean, so going back to your point about second place is advanced in this tournament, so I think it's worth talking about the format of the tournament. We're in the fire division tonight, right? In this division, there's going to be 4 different groups. There's 3 different groups, right? And the winner of each group advances, plus the closest second place finisher out of those 3 games that happen. And that makes up the 4 players that will go into the semifinals. So the margin between first and second is actually really, really important here. Claybo is trying to make up as much ground as he can on Zoras because
I'm so sorry to interrupt you here. I mean, I'm just really looking at this now, and like, because Zoras is no longer going to win network. Like, are we sure he's winning? I mean, I like it looked to me because I remember when I was thinking he's going to win by 20. I was thinking he's getting 3 towns, right? And so he's missing some of those points. Claybo is no. Zoras is still winning then, right? Can we count this up for a second here? I don't want us to be casting here. Let me check. Let me check Twitch chat for a second here, see if anyone's yelling at us.
You want to get out the calculator?
Well, no. I mean, I just wanted to quickly check Twitch chat to see if anyone was yelling at us, and of course they are. It looks like Ranuer is saying that. It looks like Rainier is saying that Swarmlings is potentially ahead because of this Zoras mistake here on B3.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Do we want to count this up?
Oh, there's some interesting things to talk about left still, so I want to do that. The other thing that Rainier has been yelling about in chat, which rightfully so, if Swarmlings had built a dwelling at the right time that gave the Fakirs a single more power, the Fakirs have an undug or like a dug yellow space just waiting for a dwelling to be built on it. They needed a single more power to afford another dwelling. That dwelling would have, now pushed the Fakirs past the dwarves, past the Darklings in network, which is again 3 more points Zoras would have lost. So Claybo was great to dig away that black that Zoras needed, but he could have done one further and built next to the Fakirs to ensure that they had the power to build that extra dwelling. I mean, no guarantees they actually would have chosen to do it. They should have, but like it's one of those things where he could have put them in a position to pass Darklings on network, which would have been even more catastrophic for Zoras.
So this is one of those things also, like in a lot of games where you wouldn't necessarily want to help your opponent. I mean, I think there's a famous game that you played, and I don't know if everyone will know what we're talking about, but Eric here won the last arena season in Terra Mystica, and pretty much his entire game plan was taking out his foe Ringer. Like he really focused on almost nothing else but digging all of Ringer's squares, poorly because he was the only one that could catch him in the arena meta or in the arena season. And so it's really interesting that you bring that up here, where if Claybo just saw that he could help Fakirs a little bit, Fakirs just all of a sudden passes Zoras, and that just helps him in the game. It's really interesting, really, really interesting here. And it looks like Zoras took water 3 here. Oh, because air 1, no more air 1, of course. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's a case. So Zoras just spent more than 2 points of resources, right? Like 2 1/3 points of resources, to what, gain a point on. I mean, I guess he gained back 3 power and a point on water, and it also lets him build a trading post. I'm not sure. Like, I'm sure the math works out. I think the math probably works out more to be even than it does that he actually gained any points, despite the fact that he built the temple and the trading post. He just spent a lot of resources to gain not that many points. So here we go with the final calculations, though.
Okay, here it comes down.
Claybo's cult points. It's got a lot of cult points. And I don't want to calculate. I love the drama of just watching this tick up.
I also love the drama here. It's too good for me. It's too fun. And it looks close. I have no idea right now.
Yeah. So Claybo chose not to go for the network play. Claybo is not going to get any points on network.
Yep.
That also might end up costing him. He chose to move up on air instead.
Yeah, maybe Claybo just never considered network, right? He's not listening to the broadcast, right?
Yeah. The competitors aren't allowed to listen.
Oh my goodness! It came down to that. Zoras pulls it away.
Zoras pulls it off by
Oh my
a
goodness!
point, and it was I think it was more than a point. He had well more than a point to make up if he had given the fakirs that power. If he had chosen to build one more
Yep.
dwelling, and you gain 3 points on network instead of advancing in air.
Yeah, he just builds the last dwelling. He just builds the last dwelling for network, and he wins instead of going up air. Oh my goodness, Claybo!
The plus side
Claybo,
for Claybo. Well, let's say this for Claybo. I don't think there's going to be a closer second place.
You're right. He's advancing. He's secured his advance no matter what here. He secured his advance because you're right. There will be no better second place. I think 3 second places move on. So yeah, he's moving on. 1 second place moves on. Thank you. Yeah. So I mean, he's got to be it, right? That's actually stressful for all of the other people in this Wednesday division, including myself, because second place no longer moves forward. Same with you, nerdcube, right?
Yeah. You're playing what, next Wednesday? I'm playing in 2 Wednesdays. Yeah, I think there's a lot more pressure on us to win first now, and we both got some tough competition, so that makes it all the more stressful.
Yeah, no kidding. There's no closer second place than this. So Claybo, despite the substantial blunder at the end, let's call it what it is, he's likely to move on here. And I think honestly, Zoras and Claybo both played wonderful games. I think all 4 of our competitors played wonderful games. It was like wonderful to watch, and it was cool to cast for the first time. So hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. All of you savages in Twitch chat and enjoyed the commentary as well. I'm sure Eric and I missed a lot, and I think it was both of our first times doing this, so it was really fun, and hopefully we'll be back to broadcast more in the future as well.
No, hopefully we won't be back because we'll be playing. Like we'll be in the finals.
Not this season. Not this season. Next season. Next season. Oh, wonderful.
Okay, so we're getting ready to bring in
Zoras.
We're getting ready to bring in Zoras.
Wonderful.
So going back to the before the tournament, Chris was asking people, Chris put out a survey asking like who the favorites were in each group, and I believe was it 74% of the vote, Zoras was the favorite in this division. He had the highest fear factor of who people were most afraid to see come out of this division. So yeah, he pulled through. Like he was the favorite coming in after the after his 4th place finish in the group last season, and then a difficult path to qualifying. He was able to pull it out. So I'm glad to see Zoras do that. For anyone who doesn't know, for anyone who's just tuning in for the stream today, doesn't see much Terra Mystica content. Zoras, we'll plug him a bit here. I'd say he's one of the leaders in the Terra Mystica community at putting out content. He streams regularly on Tuesday nights. He's got some of the best content on YouTube available for how to play alchemists, darklings, engineers, and others. So it's cool to see him, putting up a tournament performance that like backs, his status in the community as one of the best and one of the people like pushing the game forward.
Wonderful. Zoras, you there? You with us, Zoras?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey.
Oh, how are you doing? How are you feeling after that hard-fought victory?
Yeah, it was so close. I mean, probably I've seen Rainier point on the chat that there was a way for Claybo to win it. I'm not surprised. It was just so close in the end. Claybo played amazing. And good news is that we have a high chance of being both on the final table
Both
now.
going through. I mean, you'll certainly both go through. I think unless there's another, some type of other tiebreaker for another second that loses by one. But it looks like you guys both well deservedly will go through into the final. So that's really exciting. Um, let's talk about the game. Let's start right at the start here. Let's start at the bidding. So obviously you were pretty convinced that Darklings was the strongest, and I was we were both interested in when you were planning to switch over to another faction.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't convinced that they were that much stronger than the others. Just felt that they were a lot safer than others. I thought dwarves were really strong here, uh, but I was really concerned of Darkling starting not on the East Island. So, and trying kind of isolating dwarves in the East. In the end, I mean, especially like coming to the table as a favorite, that's the kind of thing that you're more worried about, because you know that people may or may not, but you don't know, so they may try to adapt a strategy that is hard for you. So I felt that Darkling had an interesting potential here. If if Swarming had started east as I suspected he would, I think I would have started center. So that
Yep.
was kind of the idea. Start center and try to leave the East Island, kind of try to um, make sure that both dwarves and swarmlings don't get much power in the end on this side of the board.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's we were I think a little bit me and Eric were disagreeing, and I'm sure you'll watch the rerun at some point to see some of our thoughts on it. But we were wondering how deep down you would go on Darklings in the auction. Obviously, we did think they were the strongest, but just not necessarily to how far that you had bid them. Talk a
Yeah,
little bit about the. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I overbid them probably for their value, but the kind of safe value that was coming with them for me was important. I felt that it was very tough to gauge setup. It depended so much on starting spots. I felt that dwarves could be overpowered just as much as they could be like in real difficulty right from the start. And in the end, that's a little bit what happened. Maybe not in the way that I thought at first, but they were kind of power starved in the first round. So yeah.
Talk a little bit about the decision at the very start in the very first round, because we had debated it on the broadcast around not choosing that +1 network tile and securing B2. Instead, you chose 4 coins and a cult step. Did it cross your mind to take the line of the network tile there?
Yeah. So starting with the shipping bonus, you mean?
Yeah, the shipping bonus. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first idea. But then after Fakir's positioning, I thought that was one of the things that I had in my mind right from the start was shipping bonus round 3. That's what I was aiming for. And that's one of the reasons I thought Darkling. It's a detail, but I very much doubted that Swarming wanted the shipping bonus, and the two other faction cannot have it. So there's a very high chance that the shipping bonus will still be there in round 3. And I thought if I can get the shipping bonus round 3, I can expand in a way that doesn't make the loss of the B2's hex so crucial. And that's kind of what happened here, especially the way things unfolded. I mean, that was a little lucky that Dwarf got the what hex is that? The red hex in the center, like just next to his landscape. So that will be G2.
G2, yeah.
Meaning that Fakir has no interest with his starting position to jump on the brown, or little interest at least, allowing me to do a town in the center, making the losing the town north not such a big deal. I thought to secure connection, this was south was a much safer way, and this way it was interesting because with once I get the yellow in the center, so H3, then I'm basically connected.
Yeah, we discussed going north or south quite a bit. Eric, do you have any like questions about Zoras for his middle game there?
Yeah, I'm curious about. I mean, we were debating for a long time. How's it going, Zoras? We were debating for a long time about what your plans were with towns. Ranier was pointing out in chat that like he thought there was a chance of you going 4 towns at one point. We were wondering, was the town going to come off the sanctuary? Were you going to form a town in the south there? Can you just talk through a little bit? Like, I mean, in the end, you only ended up with 2 towns, but you decided to take the play of cutting off the dwarves. Was that kind of like a last minute decision when the dwarves didn't to build trading posts there?
Definitely. 4 town crossed my mind at one point, but I never considered it seriously. I don't think I had the economy to do that. But as far as 3 town was the plan all along, and I felt that I had enough for it. But once the time where I decided that I could only go for 2 was when Dwarf uses landscape to dig the green, which is I6. And at this point, I knew that I could not form the town as I wanted, because that was the plan. It was to form the town with I6, and this way to have a connection with only 2 ships. And once that was gone, then I thought that I had to fall on the backup plan. That's when I decided to cut dwarves. Because at that point, I don't think there's a way to both connect and do 3 towns. I don't think there was. So it felt like the backup plan was to try to do network points, and I was just short. I don't know if there was a line. At the end, I thought I had found a line in which I built 1 extra dwelling for network, but I was 1 coin short. I thought I could go for the spade, the single spade. After and after that, I realized that wasn't going to work because I was 1 coin short in the end.
With like building a temple to gain enough power to take the single spade.
Yeah, I thought at that point I thought that was very smart.
That's clever. That would have been a very clever play if that was like the difference, like that power gain.
Yeah. I considered building. I even considered building this stronghold to get the bandit camp, and there was some point where I was also feeling that dwarves might aggro on me because I cut his connection, and if she did so, I think the play was to go with the stronghold. I still was alright.
Yeah, we actually we both thought in round 5 that you were going to set up with Fire 2 and for the stronghold. That was our estimation actually, and go for 3 towns with the stronghold in the south. But I don't know. We didn't calculate it entirely. You might not have had enough worker income to do it, so it was hard to say.
Yeah, it was a tough call. Maybe at that point I felt that because I had the shipping bonus, it was kind of not the shipping bonus, the trading post bonus. It was kind of the safe way to just try to get as much point as I can from this bonus and see how things will look in round 6. I wasn't sure enough if I had enough for the 3rd town, but probably if you can build a stronghold and a bandit cap, go 3 towns, And so the struggle with the landscape and the networks probably would have been better.
It was definitely a really exciting finish to watch because of how, I mean, there was you blocking dwarves and Stormlings blocking you, and we were sitting over here scrambling trying to figure out, like, at one point Chris had called you by 20 points saying you were going to win, but then we realized, wait, no, he's not going to get the third town. Wait, no, maybe Stormlings get network points now. Like maybe Fakir's tie Darklings on network. Like, that last round was a crazy back and forth of people blocking each other and massive amounts of point swings with who was in the lead for network changing hands every turn. So it was a very fun last round to watch.
Yeah, we're getting the producer in the ear to wrap it up. So I just wanted to thank you, Zoras, for the wonderful game to watch and also all the wonderful content that you put out. It's like a huge part of how I learned the game was through your content. So it's really cool to cast this game today for me.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice to hear. And thanks for all the play in this game. I think it was very interesting game, very clean game, as you said, very tight until the end. I'm sure there was thousands of mistakes made all over. It will be interesting to analyze. And so I'm looking forward to watch both of your games, guys, in the following weeks.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Congrats,
I'm looking
Zoras.
forward to hear the commentary too. So thank you a lot for doing this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And hopefully we see you. Hopefully we both get to play you in the next round. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely hope so.
Okay.
All right. Good luck, guys.
Bye, guys. And
Bye-bye.
just one last thing I'll say, and this is just that we're Eric and I are fortunate enough to be the first casters of this incredible tournament, this Fire 2 Open, and I think that we just would be remiss to not thank Chris Bizzle for putting this together. It's just like an incredible thing for the community. It's brought together so many people. I think I don't know what the actual viewership was on Twitch, but you have this whole community rallying behind this tournament, and it's such a cool thing that you've put on. So just wanted to be, since we're lucky enough to be the first casters here, just wanted to thank you for putting so much work into this and doing so much for the community. Yeah, he's just laughing, telling us to get off the mic here.
He's a producer now. He's not on the mic anymore.
Yeah, he's not on the mic. We can stay on as long as we want. Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Signing off.